David Bovell. I'm from London and I'm being recorded. I don't know if that's progress, but there you go. Yeah, I'm working currently with some students around the world on an educational program using science fiction. So we've got the rights to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and we're using that to imagine a better future. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, who's next?
So then I'm next. My name is Dietmar. I'm coming from Germany. I'm retired. I was technical director of a chemical plant, and now I'm in the Rotary Foundation at my district. And I wondering where artificial intelligence can help us to dive into the huge amount of rules about the foundation and how to use them to get the grants applied.
Okay.
Everybody done?
Yes.
Yeah, I can go ahead. Yeah, my name is Nijad Al Atasi. I'm past district governor for District 2452. I mean, actually, our district was 2450, including Egypt. We were a huge district, about nine. The district consists of 9 countries, 10 countries before, now 9 countries, and Egypt alone became a separate district. So I'm from Bahrain, the Kingdom of Bahrain. The time now is 5 p.m. So I don't know what you have now in morning or. Of course, my club is Rotary Club of Manama from Bahrain, and I represent the Rotary president in many, and 3, 4 district conference. One in India, one in Turkey, one in Pakistan. You know, I was this Rotary president representative, and I was also Rotary Public Image Coordinator for Zone 21. So till now, I'm very active in Rotary. Paul Harris, of course, major donor, and that's it. Supporting the Rotary.
Great. Thank you, Nijad.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Eugen Oettinger. I'm German. I live in the Netherlands. I'm the initiator of what we call the Law of Nature Manifesto. It is grounded in, yeah, I belong to a group of people expected to take impactful solutions, get them implemented, scaled up, and their value released. But it has become sort of impossible to get them through the system. So we are a group of people who have put, this group of people, a subset thereof, has put their experiences with what worked together, and that is now made available. And yeah, it aligns with what Bill is intending to do, I believe. That's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you. Leah, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm originally from Pakistan. Live in Manchester now. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Manchester and the Inner Wheel Club of Manchester. I met Bill through our colleague Amar Jaffrey, who is working on transforming the digital economy of Pakistan and education. Yeah, that's it.
Great. Thank you. Nizar, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, please.
Hello, I'm Nazar Ahmed. I'm originally from Sudan, and I'm currently a student at the University of Oklahoma, majoring in international affairs and public health with a minor in computer science. So I first met Graham at the Future We Want Model UN in DC, and I'm passionate about both diplomacy and technology and how it can work together and progress in the future.
Great. Thank you. And I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub. And I have a very varied background, a military officer, an educator, a management consultant that consulted to such things as the banking system of Switzerland and many corporations. And for the past 10 years plus, I've been devoted to trying to help make a meaningful difference in the world through Rotary. I have been involved in educational and social issues for about 30 years now. I've on three separate occasions, I've mobilized an average of 100,000 young people around the world. And I believe that we can make a significant difference in the world. So we will wait just one more minute here.
But you forgot
And
me, Bill.
pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, Jai. Please, please.
So this is Jay Hudis. I'm here in Northern California. Forgetting our Californian people, that's fine. And I'm actually a traveler right now. So I'm 12,000 miles on my journey around the U.S. and Canada, and I'm the inventor of Experience the Game, a powerful communication relationship building tool that I've been developing and implementing in different versions for 45 years. And now we're at the threshold of putting it all together at a time when it's really needed. And I'm on this journey. My gal Karen transitioned in January, so a year ago, and she when she right before she passed, she asked me for me to share her art and her book and her writings and our game that we were creating. She was president of my company. This is her game board that I created for her with her artwork, and she asked me to spread it around the country and around the world. So I'm 12,000 miles on that journey, and here in Northern California, getting prepared in my RV that's going to be on the road for the next year, and to share the light of what we have, the creation, and helping people to create their own game and to create a game where everyone wins.
Great. Great. So we see here we've really got a good cross section of people around the world who share the single goal to want to make the world a better place. Those of us that are in Rotary through service above self. But the bottom line is here to make a difference. It's not what we do, it's what we achieve. So let me get the show on the road. Ding. I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, the go-to place for those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, the whole world, and daring enough to try. I declare this meeting on 3 January 2026, first meeting in 2026 to be open. The agenda for today's meeting is a continuation of the last meeting of 2025, which was talking about can we really be great enough to make a meaningful difference in the world? If we look back over the last quite a number, maybe 4 decades, one of the things that we see is there's been very little progress in the world on meaningful achievement of meaningful goals. In other words, if we look at the major problems facing the world, we are not really that much closer to resolving those problems than we were when we first started talking about them. If we look at climate change, we look at the Rio Climate Summit of 1992, and we see that the world is in a worse situation climate-wise today than we were then. If we look here at the refugee situation and conflict situation in the world, we have never had as many refugees in the world as we have now, by a huge margin. If we look at education results, we see just 3 years ago, the UN had a world summit on education, and it pointed out that 2 out of every 3 10-year-olds in the world cannot read. So we see on point after point, we are not where we need to be with regards to these major problems. And now we have new problems that are facing the world, artificial intelligence, for example, which on the one hand is a potential danger to civilization as we know it, or even potentially an existential issue for humankind, but also potentially a tool that can help us address many of the problems the world's facing if we get it right. So the bottom line is that um, we're not really where we need to be. Now, our club, like all Rotary clubs, we seek to be of the greatest service to our community. But in our case, our community is the world because our members are from all around the world. Uh, then is the question, well, what the heck do we mean by service? And we look at it and saying the greatest service, we seek to be of the greatest service. The greatest service we can be to our community is to help protect our community from the most severe and potentially existential consequences of the major problems facing the world. In short, it just means that the mission of our club is to solve all the world's problems for the whole world. Now, that sounds crazy, but that's what's needed. And we look at things and say we can't afford to set our goals based on just what we think we can do. We really need to base our goals based on what's needed and then apply ourselves to figure out how can we make a difference on those things that are needed. And so this applies across the board. And so that's where we're looking, and we have to look at all the institutions and associations and organizations around the world because when we say we, it's not just our club; it's all of us that live on this planet that are involved. But the main issue is how do we get everybody working together to address the major problems facing the world. That seems to be the number one problem. And I recall back in 2019, the year before COVID, 2020 was the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. At the time, I was the vice chair of the NGO Committee for Education, Learning, and Literacy at the United Nations. And I recall the Secretary General talking about preparations for the 75th anniversary, pointing out that one of the biggest dangers that he saw at the time was that more and more people in countries around the world were turning their backs on international institutions like the UN and on turning their backs on the idea of international cooperation in general. So this was a very major concern. And so he went as far as to saying 2017 should not be, or 2020, the 75th anniversary, should not be a celebration because we really, as a world, don't have a lot to celebrate. So it needed to really be to try to mobilize everybody and getting everybody talking about what needs to be done to fix a lot of the problems facing the world. And so that was what we were focused on looking how can we mobilize the hundreds of millions, because that's what it's going to take. It's not a question here of how do we go and fix a school or fix a city. We've got to look here at the whole world, and we have to set goals accordingly. Now, of course, COVID came along and all that came to a screeching halt because at least our projects, because most of our projects were focused on education. Now, not education for the sake of education, though. We saw education as being the opportunity to mobilize the masses. I'll give you one example that some of you have probably heard too many times now, but that was the idea of organizing the world's largest ever readathon in schools to address that issue of the 2 out of 3 10-year-olds not being able to read, but also to create a situation where we could praise the young people around the world for making a difference to such a degree that they would be so proud that they would want to do more things to help the world. So the idea on the readathon, which by the way, none of us adults came up with, we challenged a group of 9 and 10-year-olds, early actors, in a school to come up with a great idea. And 3 weeks after that, they called us back to that school and said the kids have an idea. And their idea was they wanted to do something to help their classmates that were poor readers, but at the same time, do something to help those children in the world who were so poor they had no food and were not able to go to school. They wanted to enable them to be able to go to school and also learn to read. And their idea was a readathon where they would go and get people to pledge small amounts for every hour that they read. And in 10 days, they then, we said, go for it. And they did. They organized, this is them organizing. They organized 70 classmates and they read for 10 days. And they raised enough money that those 76 to 10-year-olds were able to take 250 of the world's poorest children off the streets of Malawi, Africa, get them into school and feed them there for a whole year. So that's where that idea started. And then there was a lot of praise from the congresswoman of the area, of a former UN ambassador, of a CNN Hero of the Year award winner, all descending on the mayor, descending on this school. You kids are heroes, you're heroes. And when a group of interactors found out about that, they said, oh, wow, imagine 70 students could so dramatically change the lives of 250 of the world's poorest children. Imagine, and I'm thinking, they're going to say we could do that too. But they didn't. They said, imagine if we could get 70 million kids to participate in such a readathon, what we could accomplish. And they made a video, and that kicked off this whole idea that grew into 2019, this plan to have the Secretary General call on all the schools in the world to demonstrate their resolve. Oh, well, the second version here that we're working on now, because we changed, instead of celebrating the 75th anniversary right now, we're trying to get him to call on all the schools in the world to demonstrate their resolve to overcome the education losses due to COVID, which, by the way, the percentage of 10-year-olds in the world that can't read increased 30% during COVID. So the idea is to say, demonstrate your resolve to overcome the education losses due to COVID by having all your students participate in this global readathon for 30 days, for 1 month, reading as many hours as you can. And our plan is to try to get all Rotary and Lions clubs, because we have this agreement between Rotary and Lions, to encourage local businesses, local individuals to pledge small amounts for every hour that their own local children read. And the Secretary General, in appealing to all the schools to participate, would appeal to all ministers of education around the world to echo his appeal to all the schools in their respective countries. The estimate is that we believe, if we've got the support of UNESCO, which already has 150 ministries of education around the world working with them, that we can mobilize roughly, or get roughly half the student population of the world, K through 12, participating. That's roughly about 500 million young people. And the goal is that they would read 40 minutes a day. That is over 30 days. That's 20 hours. 20 hours times 500 million students would be 10 billion hours. If we could raise 20 to 30 cents per hour read, that on average. Now, in the US, when we tried it, we got roughly $5 for each person participating in that 10-day readathon. So it was significantly more than 20 or 30 cents. But if we average that, that would be $2 to $3 billion that could be dedicated to reducing the number of children in the world who are not in school due to poverty or hunger. The estimate is we can reduce that number in just that 1 year. In fact, in 3 months, raise the funds that would be able to reduce the number of children out of school by upwards of 10 million in 1 year. Never been done before. And that would be the biggest human endeavor in the history of mankind. So that would obviously be a huge feather in the cap of the UN and of Rotary as well, making such a significant difference. And it's not a very complicated thing to do because we don't prescribe what people read. We just say read. And if you can't read yet, be learning to read. That would count as well. And so a lot of people were saying, what a novel idea to improve literacy. Because the estimate is with 20 hours, that is for a large share of those young people that would be participating, more than they have ever read in their lives. Because a lot of places, they don't read 20 hours in a year. They read very little. And some people say that's a great idea to improve literacy. Others are saying, what a great fundraising idea to be able to raise more than $1 billion in a year. That would be amazing. But the real goal was neither of those. It was not improve literacy per se. It was not improve the fundraising or the number of children that we could get into school. The real key was in the month following the readathon would be to organize honor ceremonies in every community around the world to honor all those young people who participated in this readathon, this global readathon, as global citizen heroes, because the hours that they read led to the raising of the funds that so dramatically changed the lives of so many of the world's poorest children. And to do that honor ceremony, honor them as global citizen heroes in such a way that they would be so proud and their families would be so proud, maybe giving them a wristband that says, I'm a global citizen hero, or a t-shirt, something that is going to increase that pride factor so that literally hundreds of millions of those young people would be saying, oh, wow, I feel good. What can we do now? What can we do next? And that way start literally build an army of people working to see how we can better the world. So that's an example of what we're talking about here, of the opportunity to have really dramatic impact. Now, what that means for our club's not a club that rolls up its sleeves and says, let's go help dig a well, or let's go help build a clinic or a school. We see, because we believe the need is to create, to mobilize the world to address the major problems, that we've got to come up with ways that are going to mobilize and motivate the masses. And we see the best opportunity to do that is to be the influencers, if you would, the influencers of the influencers. So working with the United Nations, with UNESCO, with organizations like that, working with the African Union, the European Union, with national governments, working with major NGOs, whoever is in a position to help spread the word, to help spread the motivation. That's sort of where we're looking. And so when I say here, long-winded story of why education, because for the most part right now, reaching adults is very fragmented, very, very difficult to reach adults because we've got such a diversity of media and so forth. It's just hard to do. But young people, we know where they're at. And if we can make a difference in that area and empower young people, if you would, to dare to go and make those dramatic differences, we believe that's one of our best chances for making a major difference in the world. So education, on the one hand, to make people, young people, better educated and more aware of how the world works, and to put them in a position to play a role in shaping the way the world works. On the other hand, using that as a conduit to be able to mobilize the masses to talking about the various problems. So that recently, I would say starting a couple of years ago, our focus, which had been all, let's go through education to mobilize the masses, we realized we had to make a change, and that's because of the arrival of artificial intelligence. Now, I've been working on the fringes of artificial intelligence since the 1990s. When we sort of look at where we're at and where we could be going and where things might be, I tend to be able to see the map, the roadmap in my mind of how this could progress. Nobody can say for sure how exactly it's going to progress or how quickly, but in terms of what is it really doing? How does it really work? In AI, and because we have a lot of people that say AI is not going to really make that big a difference in the world, and just don't worry about it. Every time new technology has come along, it's created more jobs than it's replaced. And there are certain human traits that AI can never duplicate or replace. I take a little bit of a different take on this in that I see AI is not really about intelligence. AI is about knowledge and experience. And the main difference between AI and humans is humans, their knowledge and their experiences are limited to what they personally have learned and experienced, or a small group of people around them. Whereas AI is potentially the collective recorded sum of all the knowledge and experiences of humankind, current and past. And there's no way that a single human is going to be able to compete with the sum of all humans that include the best of all humans in that process. So it's just a matter of time as we move into that situation. But the biggest issue is we don't have time. We have very little time because, like they say, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. We could see AI moving tremendously fast, and we might only have a year or two before certain tipping points are reached, and we lose influence to be able to change the direction of where things are going. The reason why that is possible is because there's a big push to have AI itself develop the next generations of AI. In other words, what they call self-improving, perpetually self-improving AI, so that each coming generation of AI develops the next generation. And as opposed to humans, where we have so many, a decade or more for a new human to reach a stage where they're learning significantly, AI can go through a generation here in seconds. So we could see AI evolve 1,000 years in a very short time. Not saying that's going to happen, but it definitely could happen. And there are people who are working to try to own such an evolution. So that has pushed AI into the foreground of our thinking in terms of saying, okay, how do we prepare? Can we do things to prepare for certain eventualities, so that we don't get caught blindsided and no longer have time to be able to react effectively. At the same time, we're looking and seeing all these advances in AI and going, oh, wow. Uh, can we put that to use? And we see we are. The development of new medications, the development of new treatments for diseases. This is moving incredibly fast. In so many arenas, we're seeing that it can help us solve a lot of the other problems facing the world. There's a good chance that it's going to help solve the issues of climate change. On the one hand, on climate change, we say, okay, humans just need to change their behavior and let's not do the things that damage our climate. But on the other side, potentially AI will come up with something that can actually actively improve the climate, correct the climate. There are many people working in that direction, and there are some positive things looking there. Okay, so that's sort of a long-winded introduction to how we see some of the major problems and our goals as to what we want to do to try to impact this. Now, I mentioned education, that we see education as being a linchpin, primarily because if you go out and say, oh, we're going to make our major project be climate change, there's a lot of people out there and say, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. We shouldn't be doing that. If we, in so many of the fields, you go out there and say, we're going to solve the conflicts. Well, then you have to, the people are saying, well, you solve it in our direction. And the other half are saying, no, you solve it in our direction. It's very hard to make progress on something like that. So we look at education as being something, there's very few people in the world who say, I don't want my kids to be educated. Unfortunately, there are some.
Hey,
but
Bill,
yes,
I have a question. How do we pull together? I only have a few minutes.
yeah.
Because I have another meeting I'm going into in just in a few minutes, but I wanted to see how we all come together. What's your plan for this group today and for all of us to come together to help to build that impact that we're
Okay.
looking? Is there a plan for us in this
Yeah.
conversation?
We've been using AI here to do research into how bad is the situation of education and why are we not achieving a better result? And the conclusion that we came to is that education in schools cannot fix the problem. So what the results came out, the National Association of Secondary School Principals in the U.S. Did a study and why the U.S. is always showing up so poorly in the international PISA assessments. And they concluded that if you took only the 10% of the schools in the United States that had fewer than 10% of students qualifying for a free or subsidized lunch, that the United States actually matches the best country in the world. If you take the schools that have more than 50% of kids qualifying for a free or subsidized lunch, and the United States falls into the level of a developing or third world country. We have other studies. Oh, and by the way, there's relatively few schools in the United States that are between those. Usually you have almost all impoverished kids in a school, or you have almost no impoverished kids in a school. So it's very polarized in those two directions. And that's witnessed by this past year. They presented the 2024 national the NAEP exam results for the United States. That's the national report card, which show for the first time ever, 40% of American fourth graders did not achieve basic skills. Now, in the United States, when they evaluate, they have advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic. Proficient is grade level. So basic is already below grade level. And 40% did not achieve basic, which means basically they're functionally illiterate. 40% of American fourth graders are basically functionally illiterate. And that maps into the crime rates, that maps into the dropout rates, and so forth. There's a strong correlation there. In addition, there's the Bloomberg studies of Providence, the so-called Providence talks that tracked babies from birth on through their first years to see. They put microphones on them and tracked how many words and what kind of words they were hearing. And what they found was that children from working and welfare class families hear up to 30 million fewer words by the time they're 3 years old, or by through their first 3 years of life. That those children will typically start school up to 2 years behind in mental maturity and verbal vocabulary. There's other studies that then showed because school is only 20% of the waking hours of a child, that gap that exists when they start school just gets bigger and bigger because the children from the upper socioeconomic category classes they continue to grow on all their waking hours when they're outside of school as well, because learning is compounded. Whereas the children from the lower socioeconomic categories, their knowledge decreases all the times they're outside of school. So the gap just gets huge by the time they're in fourth grade. Then we looked at all the intervention efforts that were taken. And by the way, this applies, you can take this into developing countries as well. If you go and look at a developing country where maybe the children don't speak the language of the school system, or they're in a rural area.
Bill, is there any chance of having a bit of a conversation? Because we can always record this and put it on YouTube.
Right.
And I have literally, I have 6 minutes, 7
Okay.
minutes, and I have to jump on another call.
Yeah.
So I just like to say, great to be here. And I think we can, with the brain power and the experience power of this group, that we can achieve some of the goals that you're talking about. But we have to find a way to be able to network together what we're doing so we can put those pieces together. That's why I keep saying our big campaign right now is piece it together. If we piece it together, we win. Because we have, we're all connected around the world, and we have to put all our pieces together.
Yeah.
And then we can really make this impact that you're talking about.
Yeah. The basic thing is we're looking at here are massive. We say don't even a project that's got a potential to impact 10 million or fewer people. We should not even engage in. We shouldn't bother with, because it's not going to make a difference. So we're looking here to define projects that have the potential to impact 10 million or more in a relatively short time, but moving into the hundreds of millions. We're not talking about a general direction. People go out and do something in a general direction. We're talking about very specific campaigns. We're talking of thinking the way the marketing managers of McDonald's or others think of, and say, we need to actually have a plan, a real plan with real goals and real steps, but we have to have that plan that includes rolling out specifically to everywhere.
A global model. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Global models with the local
exactly.
twists.
I call it local. So it's global and local together.
Yes.
And we have the coopoly, which is the reframe of monopoly. That's what we're launching with. And monopoly is known all over the world. So I believe that we have to touch people with game, with play, with experience, with fun and engagement. That's the only way we're going to touch the kids.
Well, you got to get them. You got to get them into play. That's the biggest challenge is here. So we've been looking here. Those of you who are in Calgary perhaps saw we had Sesame Street was there presenting, and so one of the things we're looking at is how we can make Sesame Street interactive, so that Ernie is actually seeing what the local kids are doing and talking to the local kids. So employing AI, if you would, but not necessarily very expensive AI, because we see things like Khan Academy can run on a $50 server and support an entire classroom on a $50 server and some $50 tablets.
And also the different platforms, because some places it's not just the digital, it's physical. So
Yeah.
again, I'm proposing that it's physical, digital, virtual, and coming up very much is the virtual reality part, that's going to
Yeah.
be, so it has to be full spectrum,
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's what.
But we've got it. We got to have the plan of sequence steps that make that happen. In other
I've
words,
given I just because I only have a couple of minutes. I
yeah.
gave a link on in the chat there. I gave a link so people can see this platform that we've been developing with thousands of people, tested it over 45 years in different iterations, and we're ready to deploy it to touch 1 billion people
Mhm.
and go from there. So we
Yeah.
have a platform that's ready to go. It's been tested. It's fun, engaging. We just have to do fine tuning and the resources to expand it globally. And so I just want to put that in the mix before I have to hop off
Okay.
here to another meeting.
I'll get in touch, Jai, because we've got the IP for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and quite a few
Beautiful.
celebrities involved, and we're working on a game. Would love to cooperate on that and with everyone here. And I'd like to discuss things in detail rather than just listen to a monologue. It would be great.
And thanks for all the fish.
Okay, cheers.
Okay, so the reason I went into these points is because we actually have a series of projects that has been the focus here, is looking into the projects that we are trying to get employed. A lot of them are gamified. A lot of them are creating contests. We are a great believer in the idea of competition, and competition really makes a lot of things move. So we're trying to create situations where local classes will compete in things like making skits. By the way, I'm also the representative to the UN of the largest organizer of Model UN conferences around the world. And we encourage young people to look at the problems the world is facing and come up with ideas to that. And so a lot of the things we're thinking about, just like I mentioned, the readathon, then we can start moving into the idea that you can get bonus pledges for the schools that achieve the highest average hours read per student in their school. We can create competition so we drive the amount of reading up. We have the same thing in looking in terms of encouraging students to get engaged in looking at the SDG accomplishment in their community. There's an organization called Design for Change out of Ahmedabad, India, that has spread to, I think it's about 40,000 schools now. And they encourage, these are middle schools for the most part. They encourage their students to go and address major problems and go out and fix them. So we actually see kids, middle school kids, going out and saying, "Oh, the condition of the roads in our city are the biggest problem." And the kids, these 11 and 12-year-olds, organize themselves, go get all the resources, and start fixing the roads in their communities. That's these crazy types of goals that they're working on. So we are primarily an influencer and a think tank. So we've been working for years on defining projects, and we're looking to see how do we influence the world to implement those projects. So that we're very willing to discuss and talk about making a difference, but we don't support any specific NGOs or the like. We tend to support concepts. So concepts like a readathon, concepts
So
like
I have to bail out. So thank
okay,
you everybody for being here, and hopefully we'll talk to and bring this together so we have a deeper conversation with everybody here.
yep,
You all have
okay.
a good day.
Look
Thanks.
forward to it, Jai.
Thank you
God
for
bless.
joining.
All right, thank you.
Bye. So at any rate, I don't know how many of you have read the proposals that we've been looking at, but right now we have a couple of concrete ones we're looking at testing on a pilots here. One is solving that problem of the early childhood, the ages 1 through 3, to close that general knowledge gap, because this is what you cannot teach. You cannot go out and say, I'm going to teach a child to read at age 5 or age 6 and think that's going to make a difference. The Head Start programs, the Abbott's preschool programs, they do that and they're successful. One of the biggest problems we see here in the US is third grade. The scores are relatively high. We test, can the kids read? And the scores come back great. In the fourth grade, we test again, can you read? And it's disastrous. We get some schools, 90% of the kids can't read. How do we go from almost 100% of the kids reading third grade and almost none of the kids reading in fourth grade? And the results that we found were that they can read the newspaper, they can read it out loud, they can decode letters into words, but they don't know what the words mean because they didn't get the general knowledge and verbal vocabulary in the early years of life. And that is the thing that needs to be changed. And the only place we've really seen that in mass is in Finland. And Finland went in and they started moving the preschool down to starting at 6 to 9 months of age. And they use play, but they use play in a way that encourages building language, understanding the language. And as a result, for several decades, Finland was the leading Western country in education by far. And it's the only one that's been among the Asian countries for that time period. So we see the question is, how can we provide every child with the same results of an upper middle class family that is just constantly talking to their kids, constantly explaining everything that's going on? How do we make that available to every child? And how do we make that available to children where the conversation is at a high academic level, even for those youngest children? In developing countries, let's say in a rural community that doesn't even have electricity. How do we do that? So that is the challenge. And unfortunately, it's not going to be solved by going in and trying to do something in school. It's too late. So we have to figure out how we do it in daycare or in the family. And what we had talked about here in several previous meetings was the idea of interactive avatars that is coming, that can be that ersatz parent, that replacement parent, if you would, where the parent, not because the parents are bad, but because the parents don't have the time. Maybe it's a single parent household that has to work. Maybe it's the single parent that has not themselves got the education or doesn't speak the language of the school system. So we've been looking at having an avatar be able to have that conversation. And that avatar could even be taking something, working in collaboration with something like Sesame Street, so that avatar is Ernie or one of the other puppets there in Sesame Street. But instead of it just being a one-way, here you watch and listen, maybe, which is better than nothing, but has been proven not to be that effective because it doesn't really engage the child, versus having the Ernie being able to see what the child is doing, be as a nanny, oh, don't do that, be careful, and so forth when they see dangerous or risky behavior, but also being able to say and read that story to the child and then saying, Johnny, what do you think is going to happen next? So that is, we think, the biggest single thing we can do for education right now to close the gap between the lower socioeconomic category classes and the higher socioeconomic classes. And but the avatars are not there and scaled yet. The interactive avatars are there now, but they're not there in scale. And it's going to be quite a while before we have the compute power to be able to provide that to everybody with the lip sync. When we went back to AI on that and asked, it said, well, if you just went and had um, the videos, interruptible videos where maybe they see just a still picture of the Ernie or whatever, but you have all the voice interaction, you have all the camera interaction, you've got all the microphone interaction. And we asked, okay, what about that? And it came back saying that would give us 85 to 90% of the effectiveness of having either a qualified live human or an interactive avatar doing the same thing. And they pointed out the example that in Sesame Street and others, a lot of the characters that are being moved around there are puppets, and the mouths don't move. And so it went into quite a lot of detail of why that model would work. And that model is available right now today. So we're looking to see maybe a collaboration with Sesame Street or just anybody that wants to create a pedagogically qualified experience. It's almost like customer service, if you would, in different situations, to provide that type of a home caregiver interactively that sees what the kids are doing, hears what the kids are doing, interacts with the kids on a continual basis, that we would be able to actually achieve a greater result than most of the top wealthiest children who have all the advantages. So that's one of the things that we are looking to be able to provide. So we're looking to be able to provide that 80% of waking hours that the kids are not in school to be able to go and close the gaps there. One of the major problems. Another one here is that we know that once the kids hit school, one of the major differences in socioeconomic categories is that kids from lower socioeconomic backgrounds have much higher absenteeism. In fact, I just heard this last week. New York City, homelessness among school kids is now, there's 150,000 homeless kids in the New York City school system. 150,000. That's almost 15% of all the children in the public school system in New York City are homeless. And because of policies that say you can only stay in a shelter a certain amount of time, a lot of those kids have to change school every 3 or 4 months. And every school works on a different schedule. So that these kids are just have no chance and no chance. One of the things that we're looking at here is that we need to have a school system that works for kids, even if the kids do not come to school regularly, that works for kids who don't have the background. Basically, we're saying we need a system that is individualized or personalized. And this is also another thing that's totally possible with the technologies that are available today, using things like Khan Academy. And there's a thing called Khan Academy Lite, which is being used in a couple of developing countries now, where it does not require an internet connectivity and runs on extremely low cost devices. So these are a couple of projects that we see right now that can be done during this year that could have a significant impact. We could show that it's possible here to literally close the education gaps in most of the world. And by the way, it's not just the U.S. I said 40% of U.S. fourth graders can't read. The year before last, and I think it was in May, in Germany, the headlines were all 25. Every fourth grader in Germany is basically unable to read effectively. This is a global problem, and if you take countries like Pakistan, for example, and look at that, and you can see that Pakistan has almost 30 million kids out of school. and we're never going to have teachers. But right now, we're finding out that human teachers are actually a liability in a lot of ways. They cannot match the teaching capabilities of AI teachers. So this is something that we will be able to provide what they're calling education in a box. The Alpha School in the U.S., the Squirrel Schools in China. There's about 3 or 4 vendors that are now providing AI-based school in a box where a religious organization or an NGO in a community, a charter school, can get this and set up a school relatively quickly without needing to have teachers who are, let's say, qualified in algebra or so forth. What they need is teachers that are qualified in being good coaches and facilitators that can cross all the subject areas. So this is coming. We can expect that within the next couple of years, most schools are going to be converting over. So we can facilitate accelerating that process to be able to provide these school in the box opportunities, which have another thing. They also encourage
Yeah,
independent learning.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. In the beginning, you mentioned a couple of things like how we all work together seems to be the main challenge to get through the system. How can we mobilize 100 million people, and ways to mobilize the masses are needed? That are the subjects I'm interested in.
Right.
We're now going into a specific environment that doesn't respond to those questions. So I'm wondering, what about these questions? Are they on the table today, or can I move on with some other activities, high priorities at the moment?
Well, what we were trying to do here, sort of the purpose was to go over the projects that our club has been contemplating since we were en route on these before COVID, and then COVID caused an interruption.
Yeah, okay.
And then what I was trying to do is explain what our logic is. Why, for example, we do not support.
Yeah, okay.
We know that.
I understand. I just want to know, is it worthwhile for me
Yeah, and me.
here, or focus on the other big thing I'm working on? If the questions I just read out will be discussed here, I would like to stay. If not,
Me
that's
too.
fine,
And I've
but
also
not for me.
heard this before.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's all familiar.
Yeah. I would say here, I was hoping that we would get to the point where we would be talking about how we implement the specific projects that we've got on the plate, and how we move forward on the implementation of those.
Great. Let's get to that, please.
If it's technology only, what you discussed right now,
Yeah.
Okay, fine, but not for me.
Yeah. No, you're correct.
If it is about mobilizing people, then it's interesting for me. Then I'll stay.
Actually, then you have to look, because we have the two. The one thing on the mobilization part, we are very much a top-down mobilization model, not a bottom-up social media type. So we're looking basically to. Yeah.
Yes. Again, I would like to understand whether we're going into these subjects.
Okay. Well, I started off with that, where I talked about the readathon project, which is very much a project aimed at how we build an army of mobilized people. Okay.
Yeah, but can we talk about how that, if we're going to talk about how to mobilize people for that project, let's at least get some creative input from more than you just speaking about what the problems historically have been of not succeeding in mobilizing those people over the last 2-3 years, what suggestions we might have to increase the mobilization, what opportunities we have, and get into the detail of that, because otherwise it's just listening to a monologue.
Okay, I know I'll be happy to switch over and talk about that. Our basic thing, we're looking at how we get people like the Secretary General, who has only another 8 months in office, how we get him engaged. We're looking at the International Day of Education on the 24th. Our goal very much is to when we look, if we say our strategy is to mobilize the masses through the schools, we tried here in 2018, I think it was. We had a number of young people who said, "Oh, let's not wait to get the government officials and so forth engaged. Let's go through social media or let's contact schools directly." So a team in Uganda and a team that was in Austria and the Netherlands and the UK went out and approached a number of schools, and they said, "We love the idea. Let's go. Let's do it." So they decided that they were going to go and do that as a pilot. They put a lot of work into software, into announcements, and when the time came, nothing happened. Nobody did anything. Well, they went back to the people and said, "Yeah, but you know what? You've got to get the Ministry of Education to give us permission. They've got to announce it. Without the Ministry of Education, we do nothing." And that happened in four or five countries. Same message across the board. So we know we have to go in and get the ministries of education to encourage or at least approve the okay to participate. We know we can go through the teachers associations to get the teachers pushing in the bottom once it's ready to kick off. We know we can go through Rotary clubs and the like to get them engaged in getting the communities behind the
Okay,
kids.
can we pause on that specifically? Let's say in the UK or Eugene, where are you in Holland? Was that right?
I'm in Holland, yeah.
So if we take those two countries and the problems of going through the Rotary Club, how long it will take, who's actively doing that now, how we can help do that to avoid the problem you occurred in the past. Can we get to the detail of doing that and whether that's the best approach?
Well, you say I can give a straight answer. Anything that doesn't fit the box is rejected by the system right now. It doesn't matter whether it comes top down or bottom up.
We've talked to several ministers of education, and the interest there is
which countries specifically? Have you done it in the UK, for instance?
Okay, we talked, for example, to the ministers of education in Pakistan. We asked what participation might we expect from their country. And at the time here, they indicated that we would probably be able to expect 40 million kids in Pakistan participating because the Ministry of Education would just mandate participation across the country. And we talked to the former Minister of Education of Nigeria, and he felt that would be able to have a strong participation across Nigeria. One of the
in the States, how does it work? And what could we do this year to speed that process up? Because I think you're talking about things from a couple of years ago.
In states, the thing we're looking to do is to get Rotary headquarters to support it centrally and to get the United Nations, both through Stefania Giannini, the head of the Education Department of UNESCO, and the Secretary General on board. The Secretary General on board, we had a very brief meeting with him a couple of years ago, but that was when Ukraine was just starting, and he had no bandwidth for anything other than preventing World War III. That's the way he put it.
Okay, so what do you think, if you take that lesson, what do you think it will be even better now or worse now?
I think here we have a much better argument situation because the UN is in desperate need of a win. And if they can mobilize large numbers of people doing something that is got high publicity, that is going to increase the number of people who have faith in the UN for being able to address an international problem.
Okay, so for the sake of an argument, if that's the best single target now to, let's say, approach the UN, is it called Ambassador for Education? I can't remember the official title there. In the next, what, 3 months, do we have a contact? What do we need to do that?
The best contact is Leonardo Garnier. He's the advisor to the Secretary General for Education. So he's the former Minister of Education of Costa Rica. We have contacts into the current Minister of Education of Costa Rica. We have contacts into family friends from the Embassy of Costa Rica here in the U.S.
So what do we need to make that a strong approach, given that there's the contact there? I mean, is it just your gut instinct, or is there some feedback that you've got directly from someone who says, in order for the UN at this moment of history to take this proposal seriously, it would be great if we had A, B, C, D?
Here's the thing. The UN is not an acting organization. It's not an organization that does things. What the Secretary General has is it has a bully pulpit. So they have the ability to go and make appeals. And this Secretary General is extremely good, a very good speaker on doing things like that. The problem that they've had is they focus on climate change and conflict primarily. As I said, the Education Summit of 2022 was really an effort to do something in that direction.
Okay, let's skip the problems because we're talking about that nonstop. What are your recommendations for what we can do practically to make a better presentation in a short timescale?
I would say here, anybody here, we're reaching out to people right now and saying, okay, who's got connections to people of influence that they think would make a difference? And Nigel, you know Tom Gump. So Tom is, we've been talking here, and he's been talking about here the possibility of this being a major win for Rotary, and he is the head, I think, of the Rotary membership committee. And so he's been talking about having this presented to and he's a member of the board of directors of Rotary, to the highest levels there, to get the support of Rotary, for Rotary to call for all Rotary clubs around the world to support the initiative. In other words, that we work with the media to get the Secretary General to make.
How are you going to work with the media?
Oh,
what's your current strategy?
We're actually working to put together a global communications committee of members of the media, who almost every major media outlet has an education editor or somebody in charge of the education field. Those people are looking for exciting news to be able to present. So
and how are you going to make it exciting?
Just the idea of calling for the largest human endeavor, organized human endeavor in the history of mankind. That's pretty exciting for the media.
No, it's not. It's been done many, many hundreds of times in the last couple of years. Lots and lots of people do that. I literally hear that once every week from various groups. Okay, what is exciting for the media is when it's got, let's say, some celebrity endorsement, some reality, a particular idea. So what makes it exciting to the media? Can you give us a quick pitch?
Probably one thing that would help on this, for your understanding, we've got an entire folder of documents and posters and flyers and things like this.
If you can't say it quickly now, it's difficult, right? I just mentioned something practical because I don't want to be negative here. I'm trying to be constructive, right? We're working with three education pilots in 3 countries, doing what you're talking about, but in a smaller scale, just a few hundred students in that, but with 3 different countries. And we're looking basically to do some action for World Book Day, which is April the 23rd. And that World Book Day is it was founded in Barcelona, and one of the centers we have is in Barcelona. And so teaming up practically working with the celebrities that we're working with, the brand we're working with, the idea that you have, even though it's very, very general, and making it really impactful to media, that could help move things along.
Yeah.
Right? So how could we do that, practically cooperate?
David, I've done 3 projects here on very short notice that averaged 100,000 students across the entire United States. I've mobilized close
Yeah, so what
to
could we
that many.
do? Shall I just skip that idea?
No,
I don't need
I'm
more
just saying
biography.
here, I'm just saying in
How
terms.
could we leverage World Book Day in 2 months' time, 3 months' time? How could we leverage our media contacts to work with you on the brand you're talking, on the campaign you're talking about?
Yeah.
What's the practical
that's
collaboration that can happen?
very good suggestion. International Book Day. Okay, we see right now the stronger opportunity to link it to COVID, to overcome the education losses due to COVID.
Of course, but we're just talking about an opportunity, a target that we can work on, which will get media attention.
Yeah.
Because we can make it fun, playful, imaginative, with celebrity endorsement.
Yeah, no, and we were looking very much ourselves also at the celebrity endorsement factor here.
Who?
Well, we haven't addressed, there's a couple of people that we've got that are related to the Grammys and to sports, like the major sports leagues here in the US. There's a number of sports figures that participate in a volunteer effort there that we could bring on board. But the main thing is calling on celebrities in general. When we get somebody like the Secretary General,
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. You have to approach them personally.
My success has always been not through the personal, but through the indirect calling on the masses. Let's do something and creating a momentum so that people say, I want to be part of the momentum, and that they join that way. Because I'm looking here at how we get the hundreds of millions, not how we get.
Yeah, we're all doing that, so you don't need to repeat that. It's just, I would say so far, there's 2 things that I find problematic. One is the poor marketing, the poor quality marketing involving celebrities, the branding, the way it's communicated. It's very corporate, very UN, and very poor quality. And secondly is the teamwork, the monologues, the spamming, rather than the dialogue between us, where ideas that come from the whole group get put in, right? Mm-hmm. Our teamwork is poor quality because of the way it's being facilitated.
Yeah, these kinds of meetings I find are not necessarily the best places to broaden that, because we've had here sessions where we work in online groups and build documents and build out the information, and that's been happening over years. So it's not like we're at point zero. Yes, did we shut down? We shut down during COVID. Because that
was a great opportunity, COVID, because of the technological opportunities to reach millions of people, the growth of what we could have done there. But that's the third thing that's problematic, is the poor understanding of how to use technology to create media and to facilitate the global cooperation. You don't have the infrastructure. You're not inviting technical people to help build that infrastructure to facilitate that big scale cooperation. You talk about AI, but you're not building it. There's no GitHub repository. There's no technical people that I can join in with. There's no place for me to bring coders to help. I'm here to help, and there's no interface for someone like me to help.
David, that is exactly here. One of the next steps that we see is in inviting the people. There's the group out of Estonia, I think it is, that has the these crash sessions where people come together and build the software. So we've been looking into preparing to do exactly that, to bring in developers to work in that matter. For example, on another one of the projects there that we're looking at, we're inviting here key players in the IE space or AI space to be.
Look, we do that every week. I've known this project for at least 2, 3 years now. Every week of the last 2 years, I would have joined in practical, helping to make that technology. There's a £500,000 application that we're applying for now to use that technology and to apply it at scale, which I'd love, if you allow us to speak, for us to cooperate on, right? But the problem is, it's just pushing stuff out, no space to talk, no space to put ideas in, no space to develop the detail around the technology, the marketing, and the detail. That's the problem. You're asking everyone to cooperate, but we're not cooperating on this call.
Okay, this session was intended to be primarily informative for a lot of people that did not have that knowledge of the project, and we tend to do the work together, the committee type stuff in other groups outside of these general informative sessions.
Well, I'm sure if you share links to practical participatory events where we can put in technological ideas, marketing ideas, and fundraising ideas to realize your vision, which we all share, I'm sure. There's no problem, but just repeating the vision over and over again at a great length doesn't help, when I'm sure there's a lot of people here who could be contributing.
Yeah. No, actually here where I would have been at towards the end of the meeting is what you're bringing up now is literally calling and saying, okay, who's got the connections to the people of influence that we need to get on board, and as far as the coding goes, we're not envisioning a lot because we don't want to get, for example, the readathon project, just taking that as an example. We don't want to know who's doing what as far as individual students go. That's local, kept local to the schools for privacy reasons. So it's a very simple development that we're looking at there. But that we could get into those discussions, but our approach is to pull together a committee, ask for volunteers to say, okay, you take on the aspect of the development of the tool. We have a start of a global communications committee to bring in and get the media, not just as reporters, but get them as co-conspirators for establishing the initiative. For each of the different steps along the way, that's the approach that we're taking. Create the committees, and the committees run off and do their particular piece. Also to review the strategy, a strategic group, but that takes going through a lot of the details that we've got worked out on paper on these various projects. It's not
Omar,
something.
I'd love to hear from you. You've got your hand up, and so's Eugene.
Yeah. Yes. Eugen.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah. Omar, go ahead. You asked.
Oh,
Thank you. I am from Mexico. Greetings from the webinar. I'm here not only to improve my English, but also by learn with you. I'm a philosopher about to finish my PhD on human rights and also a second degree on law. I precisely interested in international law of human rights, and I'm here precisely by learning of all of you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing these projects. Thank you for being inclusive. And I want to learn how to improve these projects in my local communities, how to teach more people. For example, for me, my mother language is Spanish. I'm improving my English and also my French precisely by joining in several groups and webinar like this. I'm actually meeting amazing people, and thank you. I'm here by learning of all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Omar, if you put your connection in there, we're doing a readathon, write-a-thon in Spanish-speaking and Catalan countries, end of this month and in April, and it's very much on the constitutional legal aspect within science fiction. It's a collaborative exercise with schools, links into the Model UN and all of that kind of stuff under a kind of space move. But I'd love to have a contact and discuss what groups you're in and how we could practically collaborate. That would be great. So if you put your contact in chat, that would be lovely.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, all of you. And well, I'm here. I'm interested precisely. I'm about. Actually, I'm working with some people of Africa about the idea to write a book together about comparative studies between the African system and the American system of human rights. For us in America, precisely in Mexico, Africa, it's almost invisible. Nobody talks, nobody cares about Africa. I think that it could be a very innovative way to proceed to study the human rights in the 21st century. If any one of you are interested in this project, you're welcome to support and by learning. Thank you. I had put my information in the chat box. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Omar. Glad to have you with us today. Yes, Eugen, you have your hand up also.
Yeah, you see, what I am interested in above anything else is that a project becomes executable and the value is released. End of discussion. Yeah. And in that respect, we have identified root causes that stand in the way, really hard root causes that are almost impossible to overcome today. In what you just presented in this example, from this I can state that if your example fits into the boxes and there are few external dependencies, then you might be able to get it to make it work through the ways you have described. The challenge is these kind of approaches worked pretty well until years ago. It has become so complex, so gridlocked. The systems have become so gridlocked that from what you described, you're very likely to hit the complexity matter. And when that hits connections, you're approaching now. Might be okay, but as soon as it needs to be implemented, it gets hit by so many obstacles that even pushing through doesn't work anymore, at least in the Western countries. Yeah. So I'm getting concerned that, yeah, there are certain ways, and the key message I just got is who has connections. I'm sorry, the root causes need more than connections.
Yeah.
If those are not addressed at the beginning, if those are not listened to, people recognize this very, very quick through intuition, common sense these days. And that's the end of an initiative. And that's getting accepted now in the Netherlands. Yeah. People accept now that initiatives outside the popular ways of thinking just don't get through the system anymore.
Yeah. I agree.
So, so Bill, so I'd like to ask you, how do you know that what you do is well enough designed, though these obstacles can be overcome?
Let me say Austria.
And that's not just, I'm sorry to say, but it's not just a matter of one person saying that's going to work. But the key we found here is that representatives of the groups involved and impacted need to conclude together whether a solution approach is executable. But that is happening early on. Good chance it will work at the end of the day. If that is not done, the obstacles will come. They will be hard. But by the time people figure out there's no money, there's no time, and so forth.
And specifically on that, Bill, I would love to know, I know you've done lots of work on this before. I've been in touch and following and what have you, lots of documents. I've had a look at the Google Drive before. I've seen the discussions before, but a multi-stakeholder conference with people from the schools and students, out of schools, parents, teachers, people from the UN taking part, relatively easy to organize, even on a small scale on Zoom, right? Where you make sure that you capture all the diversity of the blocks that Eugene was talking about at a structural level and that you've come across historically. And so in this call, I haven't heard of a new approach which is designed to get around those blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard, that's what I'd like to know.
Okay. I want to try to, yes.
Bill, sorry, but based, I mean, I'm listening to everybody, and based on what Eugen said and what David from the beginning say, you see, and because of our background also, it's a very good idea, I mean, your suggestion to set up a meeting with some key person from Rotary International, okay, like the Secretary General, because they have the way how to approach, how the connection. You know, Bill Gates, you know, he's always a very big supporter.
We could do that on World Book Day.
Yeah.
So it's 2 months, 2.5 months time. World Book Day, April the 23rd.
Yeah, yeah. So
we can connect these people.
Yeah. I just want to give you an example on the approach, because among the mobilizing people, where we mobilized the better part of 100,000 people in Austria, for example. Okay, how do you mobilize that? We basically got the press to go and announce simply that, hey, we were going to have an event. And we managed to get this many schools and students to participate. We were on track for the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the Western Hemisphere. We actually, working through the associations of teachers of English across the European continent, we had pledges of 10 million student participants across Europe that were pledged to participate. The plan was for the President of the United States to issue the invite and everything. And then, of course, those 3 movies came out in the summer of 1992, that Columbus was the most evil person to ever walk the face of the planet. And the whole thing fizzled on the North American side. But the approach here is, for example, we want to work with the schools, through the schools, but not necessarily in the schools. I'm going to give you another project example that highlights this, and that is the idea of a music competition. A music competition to create a fight song for the future we want. The slogan "Future We Want" in the UN, based on the SDGs, and to encourage students of music, but also professional musicians around the world to compete by getting here the Grammy organization to announce that they were having a competition to find the best fight song, and it would sort of follow a model that America's Got Talent type.
Okay, let's just take this as an example, Bill. Because it's not that I've just heard these examples before, but they're coming from one of 2 sources is how I would describe it. They're coming from young people, 8, 9 years old, or people at school, and they're coming from committee people like yourselves, right? And when I look at it, I've been an artist, I've worked in media, I've worked in television, I've been commissioned by the Arts Council, I work with lots of artists and designers over the years in many genres, right? The quality of those ideas is very, very low, and it doesn't get picked up as an art expression, as an exciting media proposal. To change that along the way that I would say Eugene is talking, I would like to come to a meeting where really cool kids who are good designers turn up, where artists want to come to, not a committee, not something with an 8, 9-year-old or something with the United Nations, which do appalling events of appalling media quality, right? And they want better quality. So if you can channel the energy by changing the way we discuss things and bringing new people into this discussion, we can combine the ambition to scale out to millions of people with more quality in terms of media, talent, design, and messaging, right? That is a problem we have at the moment. The quality of the media messaging is weak.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, I agree that that is the case. And part of what we're looking at, we have a database right now of about 25,000 young people where we're working to create a competition for young people to see, for example, with regards to the UN in this case, of how they would design an AI tool to assist representatives to the UN, committee members to do a better job. So the young
Mhm.
people go and work out and try out different models and make suggestions and put
Yeah, that's a
together
standard approach. So the practicality is, do you have the funding in place for that prize?
a
Because we have two.
we anybody who's putting a
Right.
prerequisite of funding we don't support.
No, we already have it. We
Yeah,
already have that. We could be working together on that
okay.
prize in an exciting way.
Yeah,
There's two opportunities for it. Really good fun with science fiction we could do.
yeah,
Secondly, if you want to get good quality young people participation, a key to it is get some cool kids involved.
yeah.
It's not purely bottom up. You want to get the peer mentors. Want to get the aspirational people involved. That's why I say, because there are so many UN and schools projects which have your methodology approach,
Mhm.
and it's just another school project that no kid really wants to take part in.
Yeah.
Really boring approach, style, and prizing.
I think
So,
Amar, Amar, you're an example here because we met through Future We Won, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So Amar is an example here of somebody of the quality of young people that we have that participate in these global events. And like I say, we've had over 27,000 alumni now that we've gone through. We're the largest organizer of youth Model UN events worldwide. The quality of these young people, what they come up with, is amazing. So can provide them. We're looking to provide them with an advisory panel of AI experts and an advisory panel of UN experts, diplomatic experts, to advise young people in coming up with proposals for how to use AI to create a diplomat's toolkit that will help them address world problems more effectively and build consensus within diplomatic channels. So that's just one example. But the idea here is if the Grammys or the Eurovision Song
okay, let's
Contest,
take that example. There's your approach here, which is basically committees talking a lot about the previous track record of success, and let's create some more of these competitions and lots of young people participating. I would say, if I was to suggest an alternative approach, which is complementary with what you're talking, not replacing it, is, for instance, we're working with exactly that same theme, AI and education in the future, and we're using a world famous science fiction brand with celebrity involved in that, with Hollywood films that have been produced and the executive producers of the films on that. We're not bragging about that right now. And then we're reaching out to diplomats, people who've got some sort of interesting approach to that AI diplomatic service. And we're looking at social media very, very closely with artists. And there's a lot, for instance, of buzz at the moment about aliens and aliens amongst us. And we're therefore crafting together a story, a creative story with celebrities that uses the alien as a diplomat to communicate with other people, and then asking people to design AI to communicate with aliens. Now, I'm not saying that's a brilliant idea. I'm just saying the approach is different. The approach is working with artists, working with talent, making it aspirational for young people, and then we can team up with the committees and the scaling. But at the moment, that lack of initiating means I could not bring talented designers and artists to these sorts of meetings.
David,
They
what
would
you're
get
just
bored.
described here, though, would be a perfect example of a partnership here. What we're looking to do, as I mentioned here, number one on education is we have to solve the birth through age 3 problem with the continual family support, if you would, through age, I think it was age 8, I think that they said needed to be covered. So the idea here is to create eventually an avatar that would basically be the tutor caregiver, the parent that reads the stories to the kids at
I
night.
understand that, but when I hear that, I hear you having talked to ChatGPT, and it feels technically uninformed.
No, well, the question here is if we could have, for example, a Sesame Street or
Yeah,
anything
but
like you're
Sesame Street
describing.
is about 200 years old.
Okay,
It's
but
just,
or what you're describing, do it with your science fiction here. It doesn't make any difference. But targeting here the
yeah,
age
we
of
agree on the target. What is the problem is not inviting in the right people to help
no,
craft the realization of that.
David, I'm inviting you. I'm inviting you to say, let's take that and run with it. Take it and develop here. Bring together the people you're talking about.
So we have
Develop.
a proposal on World Book Day. We're going to have a multi-stakeholder event where we bring artists, we bring creative people, and the institutions and the media and the committees together to form the grounding for the campaign. Right? That adds to the research you've already done, but brings in a completely different class of stakeholder, and
Fine.
by the way, makes it much more participatory.
Right. It's okay. That's fine. Bring those people together. What we're looking for is the product in the end of the day that we're looking for is a product that is going to be the companion of young children
Yeah, of
on
course.
all their waking hours up
Yeah, of
until
course.
their school begins, and then continuing beyond school begin
Yeah.
up until they're in beyond
Of
fourth
course.
grade.
By the way, I do have to point out that you've got two contradictions in what you've been presenting there. One is a non-technical intervention that any kids can do reading, and two, a technology which isn't quite here yet, which
No,
is
that
speculative.
technology,
No,
I
I
can
know
provide
well
you.
that technology. I build that technology. I know it
I
really,
have
really
to.
well.
I've worked 50
Right?
years in IT, and
Yeah, yeah.
I've been leading
Yeah.
here. I brought
That
cloud
technology, as
technology.
you said yourself, is not here yet at
Yeah,
scale.
no, the avatar
So you can't
technology,
deliver it.
the
That's what you're
avatar
saying. So
technology, not, but the technology that we're proposing is here right now and being deployed by many companies already
yeah,
today.
yeah, of course. You're just talking about AI, aren't you? And we're in the pilots we're doing. We've got, you know,
I'm
Gemini
just saying
AI
here, though,
sponsoring the schools, right? But
I like the idea. You're saying you can bring the people together. I'm saying here, okay, we know what we need for a solution. We just need to get people here. I would love to see 5 or 6 parties competing in that space to bring solutions.
yeah, I'd love that as well. But first of all, I'd like the invitation to be a bit more polite and engaging. So, in other words, bring the different stakeholders there and make sure you get young creative people and various people who understand design and what have you as part of the table, as well as so it's not just internal documents with ChatGPT and workshops that we've done and the history of that, but it's bringing the people who haven't been involved in the design process before and really confronting the mistakes of previous campaigns.
And that matches too. One of our committees that we're looking to do is what we're calling a communications advisory committee. We're looking to get the top PR companies, the top marketing consulting companies to advise on how we mobilize the world. So we are looking to bring together those top creative types. I agree with you. It's great to have a opportunity to invite young people to participate in that level, but it's also important to get the players that are there today to participate. And our approach to doing that, and I did this already. I built actually one of the largest IT conglomerates at that time in the world. We were called the IBM of the microcomputer world, and we were the leading, including in the UK. We were one of the leading companies in that field, and the approach was to approach the best and say, "Here's an opportunity to demonstrate how good you really are." And I was picked up on almost every country in Europe. The leading country, the companies in the field joined in my group. So that we see that we have that as a plan of how we would approach doing that and getting those people. And they have a lot of the connections we're talking about. They have. So I think we agree on a lot of the general approach. And so we should follow this up and have a small group talk on literally, okay, putting these action committees together. As I said, we had to pause because we were going through the schools, not necessarily in the schools, but the schools might announce the competition for music and then encourage because music teachers, when you talk to the unions, music teachers, one of their biggest challenges is how do I get my kids excited? How do I get them putting in more effort, more time? So if anything that comes along, such as a competition sponsored by the Grammys or the Eurovision Song Contest, that will create excitement for their students, those teachers want to present that to their students and encourage their students to get involved. And then the same applies to the arts and other fields as well.
Definitely, we all agree that we want to have students excited, but the idea that the sorts of things that are being proposed now get students excited is I would say, in my humble opinion, got a repeated track record of not getting students excited. They'll do it if they're told to do it. But if you really want to get students excited, I would say there's a slightly different approach to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, those types of things we're very interested in hearing. I do agree with you. And in fact, part of our strategy is to get the teachers to call for the students to participate. So the students are doing what the teacher basically called for, but to do it in a way that the benefits, the prestige benefits that literally tens of thousands of students in schools can get prestige out of participating and things like that. So, but that's something here we can take offline. I just want to go back here. Again, you got your hand up again.
Yeah, in this discussion, I think David brought it in a kind of a way. And you may have, David, it sounds to me you have a lot of experience in a certain field that haven't been touched. And that is not just the youngsters, not just the high-level people, but the few guys who understand the tipping point line of when something doesn't work versus when it can be made to work. They have the experience. There's a special experience that's required. And it spans a wider, first of all, if you look around here, the people with a skill set that's called polymers, they have expertise in multiple areas and can find or have found effective solutions in different fields, and especially those at the system level. They need to be able to put together the solution in a way, so not just the tools, but also the psychology, marketing, and what's involved acts as a single entity. And so people can see whether it's executable or not. And that skill set, to me, has become the most important one in today's world to get big problems through the system. If that is missing, people are at extremely high risk of falling back into the expertise, trying to push the expertise beyond the level where it works, and that's the beginning of the end of the project. It's even harder. People around them can spot that very quickly this day and withdraw or act with lack of support and opposition. So what I would like to suggest, please make absolutely sure it's not just the high-level VIPs or whatever, and the children who cannot have the experience, but that this hard-to-find skill set is in the system that ensures the right pieces are put together, the difference is made between what works and what is not. What concerns me now a little bit is whether I can deliver what Dave, what Bill mentioned, whether AI can deliver
Can
what's
I ask you
needed.
on that, Eugene, which
Yeah.
is what you're talking about there, and my expertise in that complex system mapping of institutional multi-stakeholder analysis, the various blocks of the different parties and so forth, is not incredibly deep. Do you have a particular experience in, let's say, if we were to run this workshop with multi-stakeholders to ensure that the right stakeholders, the people you were missing, would be invited, and also to formally map that so that a good, quick, implementable plan could come out of that so we don't slow things down? Because all this consultation and committee work tends to be incredibly slow rather than getting on and building stuff. And I know that Bill is very, very keen to move fast. So if we can move fast, that would be great. And we're only talking 10 weeks.
Well, there is a combination of two old methodologies that has been applied here. Countrywide project. It was used mainly in developing countries, by the way. And
what did you call countrywide project?
It was a countrywide project where different parties had to work together to get a potato disease under control.
Mm-hmm.
And there were endless discussions for over a year. Nothing worked. They didn't get any further. And then, this guy, who I know rather well now, came forward with that methodology. He did a couple of workshops. Project was up and running. Instead of the hundreds of millions of costs, it was only a fraction. People helped themselves because they understood how they could help each other. And the project was finished ahead of the goals and at a fraction of the usual cost. Yeah.
And do you think we'd practically be able to bring your friend in or what have you for this workshop in April?
He might be available for that. It's now a little bit more complex. We have added a couple of things there as to reflect the increased complexity. But such things are available. Yeah.
And I've used only one framework, again, international development. I really like the early stages of it. But Bill, what have you already done? I know you've got all this background in the military and running big companies, but in terms of participatory multi-stakeholder design, have you done any workshops like this already for this project? Have you got any documents that not just group chats, but formalized mapping of the relationships, the blockages, the problems, that kind of work to take the scale of the project you're talking about, the ambition, absolutely needs that sort of work in terms of logistic planning, if you like, or practical project planning.
Yeah, I think we took a little bit of a different, and I'm going back to the 2018, 2019, where with the planning before we put it on hold. And the strategy, for example, there, I'm going to give you one example. What if we were to get a group of philanthropists, maybe Bill Gates and a number of friends, that they were to announce that they were supporting this global readathon by pledging X amount of money per hour read anywhere in the world and reported through that system as part of the Read for a Better World Day or Read for a Better World Month. That was to be announced together with the Secretary General. That is big news. And when we look at the news, we don't look at creating news and having one day.
Okay, but you're bypassing the question here. And we take that for granted. We obviously have to get big names endorsed. We have to approach them. What Eugene was talking about is in order to realize that plan, what you need to do is model. There are these wealthy benefactors. There are these institutions. Why are they likely to accept or refuse it?
That we have.
What are the overall complexity mapping?
That we have. We have a breakdown of all the targeted audiences, what we would expect them to do, what the difficulty is in getting to them, and why the arguments that would be made to get them on board. That we have got.
Yeah,
if you could share that, would be great.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, the project I just mentioned there were just a few workshops. The maximum number of people participating was 12 per workshop. Yeah. So it has to be very small in that respect. Yeah. And the fear I have, or that's something that happens relatively. If you would go to somebody like Bill Gates now and the Secretary General, and you have not an executable solution framework,
Yeah.
yeah, and you try it,
Yeah.
what you're doing will be banned. Yeah, you will get into bad lights.
Yeah.
But so before you go to any of that, guys, I would strongly recommend, first of all, create an executable solution framework. And by the way, that should put on one wall, and the post-its should be of half a page size. Should all fit into one wall. Anything else in a complex environment gets lost in the overload of information.
Again, I agree with you 100%. I think we're getting into some really good brass tacks right now. For example, some of the competition type things we're talking about that involve the hierarchy of competitions. We literally break down each competition round and describe minute by minute. We've got sample videos of the 3-hour session, what a sample 3-hour session looks like, what types of speakers will be invited where, who's presenting what when. And when judges are involved, here's the tally sheets, the judging sheets. Literally, it's broken down to the point. So because we would have to run multiple sessions where we could provide each team the instructions of how they do that one piece.
Wait a moment.
Yeah.
Now you raise an alarm bell in my mind. This is linear thinking.
Yes.
Sorry, this is linear thinking.
And it's also implementation details of a specific project rather than looking at the aims and objectives, the stakeholders, their interest, which might require a redesign of the actual detail of the program you're talking about.
Oh yeah, no, but you got to start off with a straw man to be able to go up and come up with something specific. You start off with a goal. What's the goal? Okay.
Yeah, but you weren't talking about a goal. You were talking about a detailed implementation of a particular class.
That came after the goal. We had the goal, and then there were multiple initiatives suggested by different groups, and we looked at each one of those initiatives and their audiences and so forth. And then we spelled out here. This one happened to come out of India. They did the pilots. And we're able to break down exactly.
So can I ask a question of both you and Eugene? Like, when I hear the story, because it's sort of repeating now with our educational pilots, right? When I hear the story about the problems of involving schools in this kind of initiative, both at the teachers, the district, the regional and the national level, right? And I hear the blockages you had. To me, what you kind of need to do is you need to kind of think through those or play at them and imagine them before they happen, right? Yes. Because they fairly obviously would have happened, right? And so what I want to know is, are we going to repeat that mistake again by not having the sort of plan that I think Eugene is talking about, where we really imagine the problems of Bill Gates or the problems of the UN guy or the problems of the national school or the problems of the school teacher or the problems of a local funder, and you act out all of those, right? Or the problems of...
Yeah, that's why what we did with regards to, for example, the readathon, is we envisioned a single community or a single school, and we said, who are the players? You've got the school administration, you've got the teachers, you've got the local Rotary Club, you've got the local Parent Teachers Association, you've got these various players there that play a role. And we looked at how do you influence each one of these player groups so that they work together to maximize the impact at that local level. And what do you need above that? How do you get? We're not going to be able to go and knock on the door of every individual Rotary Club. That's why we need Rotary International. We're not going to go and knock on the door of every local teacher, so we need the teachers associations on board. So for each
So,
of these
for instance,
groups,
that surprises me. Like the Rotary International will be one of these stakeholders.
yeah.
I'm pretty surprised that they aren't already on board, given the amount of time this project has been
No,
planned.
the reason for that's a whole separate thing here, where another project where we've been analyzing why has Rotary been going downhill so fast in the last decades in developed countries? And we've traced it literally back to World War II. World War II is the cause. And we are able to see how Rotary has split between what's going on in developing countries and what's going on in the developed countries, where community per se in developed countries has declined. The influence of communities has gone to almost zero. So the movers and shakers that used to be the backbone of Rotary in the community levels have moved on to state levels and corporations. But Rotary has stayed community oriented, and they lost their membership basis in the US and developed countries. So that's a separate subject we're looking. But because of that split, if you would, in Rotary International, that's why we have to work through the directors and through people like John Hugo, the CEO, because they want to get Rotary back, that it has the prestige that it used to have when it participated in the founding of the UN. Which it no longer has by any means. The UN Rotary is a joke at the UN. Some third ranked person might go and say something at the Rotary Day at the UN, but it's there because Rotary has not been setting any goals. Rotary can't point to any significant successes other than polio for the last 3 or 4 decades, and polio represents something like a fraction of 1% of world problems. So there's the recognition of that, and so Rotary, just like the UN needs a win, Rotary needs a win. Rotary needs the media talking about Rotary doing major global achievements on a regular basis, because we don't even have community media anymore. Media is now all regional, over regional, and most of the contents are national. If you can't come up with some news events that are at that level, nobody locally knows about them. So we've got to get the prestige back, and by accomplishing something like this, it's like McDonald's. I use the McDonald's example.
Yeah, but
If I
we have
get
heard that
Eugene,
example many times.
yeah,
We
yeah,
need, well, what you
We've heard it.
message you just got across is you need something that is executable. You cannot afford
oh yeah, absolutely,
losing that. Yes.
absolutely. We need
So that
something.
should be where all the effort is
Yeah.
on, not on the details,
Yeah,
but first of all, understanding whether it's possible to get this through the system and how
yeah,
that is made to happen.
yeah.
Not with hundreds of pages, but with an absolute minimum
We
of
literally
information.
have about 4 or 5 one-pagers that were put together in 2019 in preparation for the 2020 launch that do exactly what
Yeah.
you're describing.
I would be
And
surprised.
I know
No.
one thing that would reassure me more than anything, right? Which is I would love to turn up to a meeting like this and see that it's just more than you and people attending. In other words, I'd like to see a team of 4 or 5 people equally having produced documents, doing the design, doing the technology. I'd like to see you personally in partnership and dialogue with those other people, rather than being the general in charge of everything, right? Because you're putting too much on your plate, and I don't see the partnersps here, right?
No, you're 100% right. That's why this group, if we take a look at the group, that you and again are the only ones here that have been in other meetings. So these are informative sessions. So they're not necessarily the planning sessions or the type of thing that I think you're talking about. So we have a very heavy repetition of information that goes out, because we have such a high percentage of new people that are attending these sessions. What you're, I think, would be more interested in is a session where we've got people who are informed of the particular goal of an initiative, and the background as to what's been tried, what's failed, why we are encouraging certain paths, and then what are the things that remain to be done, and who's going to do those? How are we going to divide up? Who's going to do what so that we can achieve? And we welcome in those discussions, we welcome people that say, are you sure that's going to work? I don't know. I don't think that's going to work. What makes you think that's going to work? We want to get into exactly those kinds of discussions because we don't want to find out what's not going to work when we're in the middle of trying to implement it. We want to play through the scenarios and have a pretty good sense of what will work before going in. At the same time, we want to be very low effort related to the actual implementations of these. For example, in schools, if the teachers just put out and say, "Hey, kids, give me a report every day of how many minutes or hours you read yesterday," and I'll put it in a spreadsheet, and that's it. And we have one place that the school is able to go in and just simply register in the beginning. How many classes, how many kids, and that's it, just the numbers, and then just say how many minutes total that we've got here on in a particular week. They do it 4 times during the whole thing, so very simplistic, and people, it's just there. Hey, this is there. If you want to participate, go for it. And in some countries, like we heard from Pakistan, they said, well, mandate every school participates. Okay, great. But we're just putting out the word. There's this event taking place there. You might want to participate in the event. The teachers are looking, I need an excuse here that I can get kids to read. If they think here that for every hour they read, we're going to get a donation or there's going to be a donation made, that's going to encourage them. And then for the Rotary clubs, simply to be able to put in and say, hey, I've got these pledges. I got a website where somebody can go in and say, for this class in this school, I pledge for every hour they read, I'll donate 2 cents, whatever.
Yeah,
It's simple. Keep it very simple.
Yeah, I need to leave quickly.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, David, would it make sense if the two of us have a chat?
I'd love to. I definitely would love that.
Yeah. And then picking it up from there, maybe there's a way forward, rolling out of that.
Yeah. I'd love to. I've got I think the contact here. I've saved the chat. You put your contact in the chat, didn't you?
No, not yet. But
no, okay.
I've sent you an invite on LinkedIn.
Okay. And David, what I just said here in terms of the simplicity, low risk. Schools are the most risk adverse organizations in the world. So you've got to make something here where it's not part of the curriculum. It's not part of the regular part. It's just something you do on the side. The kids do on the side. They can count any hour they read in school or out of school, and it's just a simple reporting thing, and that's just kept very simple, very low key, but they can get excitement here if they're able to. The teacher says, "Hey, we've now claimed so much pledges because we've read so many hours so far, and we've got pledges for our class of so much per hour."
Okay,
read.
Bill, yeah, okay. That's detailed right now. We need to focus, if we want to go forward with this, on highest impact things first. What are the biggest obstacles to overcome?
Yeah.
What are the
and
biggest
I'd love
causes?
If Bill, I don't know if you can put in the chat that mapping of stakeholders document you have, and also, well, it's mainly that. I'd also like to know what, and it should be in that stakeholder map, what named personal that we could just ping and they come to, let's say, a meeting that we convene, if we got 15 people, what people in educational institutions that we can bring in, right? That have the experience at the different levels, you know, so that that would be really good to practically know how quickly we could move on that. Because I definitely got an interesting social media campaign that would go very well with this book reading. But I also think there's a big tension, which I don't feel has been properly addressed in the thinking that I've heard yet, between in school and out of school, and getting that balance. It's very difficult to do something which is both, which isn't also boring and bland. So you might be able to do it, but it's probably best to have two interlinked campaigns, something that you can do very quick without resistance out of schools with parents and out of school sort of place, but with strategic kind of links into particular schools that can scale, that they'll take a lot slower to get on board, so that you can basically, and then if the big names come on board and endorse it, then a whole country, all their schools can join, but you don't have to move at the slowest pace of the slowest actor. I think that's what you're talking about, but I think the messaging needs to be, or the campaign needs to be split between the out of school and the in school thing as two separate interrelated parts, but I'm not sure until I hear what the detail is there.
Yeah, I can just say my grandkids participate in readathon in Germany, and it's in school and out of school, and the kids just turn into their teacher once a day saying, this is how many hours I read at home, and the parent has to sign, and this is what I read in the school, and the school keeps track of it. Now those are done at a local level. It's in their case, it's Bavaria. It takes, as I said, the state minister of education, if they don't authorize it or recommend it, it's not done across more than one school at a time, which isn't going to help us. So but keep in mind, we talked about, when you talk about here, and I think the project aimed at the 1 to 5 year olds is perhaps, when you talk about easy to implement, quick to implement here with the technology, and I can provide you descriptions on the technology that would be needed. And our approach there was to reach out to a number of startups to say, hey, go for it, because whoever comes up with that first is going to be a unicorn. They're gonna be $1 billion company very quickly. So
okay, just on that thing, just mention
again. Glad you joined us.
Okay, see you next time.
Okay, see you next time.
Bye.
You found me on LinkedIn, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my email is in the chat now.
In the chat. Okay, thanks a lot. Oh yeah, I'm just looking at the wrong one there.
Or just to be sure. Did you receive it?
I'm sure I did. I can see the chat here now, so I've got it. Yes, I'll just save that again.
Right.
I've saved it 15 times now. In terms of scale this year, one thing that is controversial, but really helps with the scale, and also helps with the technical implementation, and this kind of making it something which isn't just the boring thing that your parents make you do aspect, is working with the mainstream use gaming platforms, which is basically Minecraft and Roblox. So Roblox does events with simultaneous users up to 15 million taking part, and they have 160 million people under the age of 12 taking part every month, right? What's your attitude and approach to engaging them? Why aren't you doing it? Do you want to do it, rather than trying to get what would be probably far less participation by going through a few states and a few schools and the slowness of that?
I think it's a little bit of a different thing we're looking at. When we look at the education situation, we got two. Let me describe here the approach that we would be taking to show we could close the education gap in primary schools.
I know what your approach is. I'm just asking, why are you not thinking of using the games to do that?
Because I'm not interested in anything in the schools. I'm interested in things that are going to be 1,000 hours a year, not something that's going to be an event.
No, I mentioned an event.
Okay.
Any case, but what I'm saying is you have a far bigger youth audience than you can get any other way.
But the main thing in education
with ongoing participation.
Right. The main thing is the motivation. There are 4 million just in the U.S. alone. We have 4 million kids per age level, so that we need to look and see what is the plan to get all 4 million
Yeah,
kids.
I know what you need. Look. Do you know the demographics, the penetration, the educational projects that are currently done by Gains in schools? Do you know the relationship between them? Do you know how you can do it outside of school, inside school? Do you know the scale you can achieve with exactly the same reading aims you have by using something which isn't just let's create another committee? Get teachers to ask people.
We're not.
So, what is your particular approach or issue or problem with using massively popular online games to access reading skills with kids?
Well, I guess here the question would be for the kids that we're looking primarily at here in the US, for example, and in most European countries, what is the likelihood that they would be engaged or involved? We're talking about kids that don't have the verbal vocabulary to be able to speak intelligently. So they just don't know what anything means. And I don't.
Why would that affect anything here? What I'm proposing.
Well,
why do you need to be able to speak to be able to, if you're playing Minecraft or Roblox, you don't need to speak.
No, but the thing about it is, no, I'm saying though, would they be even playing? Would they be in that demographic that is even involved in playing?
Yes is the answer. And the second part of the yes is it's aspirational. So it's just that they want to play and the cool kids are playing there and they have an opportunity to feature and and the visuals and the graphics and how it works.
I would say here what you described, those types of companies, they would be our ideal choices for partners to go and say, okay, we would love here for you to develop this.
I'm proposing that, but what I'm saying for us to do that, we have to be able to understand and speak and be creative so that we go to them with a consistent plan.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's like us going to Sesame Street and saying we want to make Sesame Street bi-directional. Keep in mind,
by the way, why do you mention Sesame Street? Do we have a personal contact there or something?
Yeah. They were a main speaker at the Rotary Convention in Calgary last year. And they still have for that audience of let's say 1 to 4-year-olds, they still are a major player in that space. And that's the critical space. That's we're seeing here. It really doesn't make any difference what you do with kids who did not get to a certain level by age 4. It doesn't. Their lives are over. Their lives, you might as well write them off. They're good for cannon fodder here if you need to build an infantry and send some people out to be killed, but that's about it.
Yeah. So are you saying that in terms of focus this year, you're only focusing on kids under the age of 4?
No, we've got different projects. We've got one level of project we're looking at is in the K through 4 range, and that is to close the gap. But we realize that what we can accomplish there is very limited because of this so-called 4th grade cliff, at least here in the US, because they take too long to learn to read. We have a program here, this program called Alpha out of India. We've grown from about a dozen schools to 35,000 schools now in just 2 years.
With Sunita Gandhi?
Right, that's Sunita Gandhi.
Yeah, I'm talking to her.
So, but the thing about it is that is something that could be useful, but it's not going to fix the problem. They're still going to fall off the cliff. These kids are still going to fall off the cliff because what that doesn't do is it doesn't expand their verbal vocabulary. It expands their decoding capability and speed, but not their verbal vocabulary. And you can't make up for the thousands of hours of missed just information flow that these kids in the lower socioeconomic backgrounds. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bloomberg studies in Providence, Rhode Island, that just show that these kids might have been you might have just as well locked them in a closet for the first 4 years of their lives and not let them see. They're basically at a grunt communication level.
Yeah, I'd just like to focus on what we can do right now.
Right. So we got
year.
multiples. We got, because different teams can be working on different things. So we got one team worked on using something
Can
like
I ask you on a multiple there, a specific thing, because I chatted to a couple of people in the chat here, the text chat, who've got an interest, like I believe Omar and Nizar both have interested in public policy, law, constitutional, that kind of element. And you mentioned the Model UN experience that you've had before. We, with space law, space science fiction thing, the biggest parallel to that is the International Space Moot. And that's big in Ohio and other states that we're working with. And because it's the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, there'll be a lot going on in July. So there's a quite good potential to put some schools and some reading and some literature, exercise, playfulness around imagining a future United Nations kind of constitution type thing for the planet that we could organize at scale if we work together. Is that something that seems interesting or to explore from your point of view?
Keep in mind, July, the schools are all closed here in the United States in July. But to leverage these, we just need to see when we look here at the tying things to events. We very much, that's why we've looked oftentimes to the International Day of Education, which is 24 January, as a thing. Rotary has Literacy Month is September. There are different events that one could plug into, but
I'm trying to avoid the world's most boring events, like the UN events and the Rotary Club's events.
Nobody pays attention.
I'm trying to do something. No one does, but that's because they're run by the world's most boring people, right? So if you do something which is a bit more rock and roll, if you do something which is designed with that sensibility of great storytelling, of passion, of fun, of playfulness, you can do something interesting. So I'm always looking for interesting things. That 250th anniversary in the middle of the World Cup football with Trump and his tanks on the street, all the history going on there, science fiction. I can do something at global scale, media-wise, with a very small team if we do something crafty there. Right. So, and by the way, one thing that America's very good at is that MOOC aspect, and also summer schools. So doing something like a 42-day summer school leading up to that Constitutional Assembly, where teachers bring people in, being able to do it online, out of school, that's the sort of infrastructure which I think with your connections, we can maybe do something with.
Yeah, the out-of-school infrastructure issue that we've got here is that's dealing with the people that are not really the problem. The people that are the most problem don't have the connectivity and infrastructure.
The way that I've been proposing, but I'd love to discuss it in more detail and see if we can get you a text proposal, is taking the energy from that sort of thing and then getting that to directly support some infrastructure in a school or in a place where they don't have that infrastructure. So getting that media publicity energy, collecting, fundraising, and then funding direct initiatives in school. That is the two-way link between the out-of-school public energy space and the in-school, let's get that literacy program really fucking working at scale.
I agree with you on the out of school, in a school that you don't want to try to say, oh, you got to put this into your curriculum type of thing because your chances are zero. The school systems just are intractable. You're not going to move them, which is why the
Well, there
redesign.
is one opportunity there just to talk about, which is they have to rapidly put a lot of interesting things in to do with AI and school policy. So if you're involved in those discussions, you can put things in, and that's what the Ohio pilot is about in particular.
But keep in mind, in most parts of the United States, first of all, there's states. Really, Texas is the only state that has any state level say over education. The rest of it is at the community level in the states, for example. And one of the biggest problems that we're still seeing here, most of the school systems are rejecting AI. They're saying no electronic devices, take all the laptops out of school, because they're still in the mindset
you
here.
need the right story there. So I've been working on that story. So for instance, in the hitchhiker methodology, you've got Marvin, you've got deep thought, you've got some of the deep A thinkers, but you can also have the alliance, which are against AI, and then you can put both of those in a story to come up with the AI policy for schools.
Right. What we looked at here is how do we change the political pressures to cause the schools? How can a school for 20 years never get to 10% of students at grade level by fifth grade? How can that exist? And how can we have that every school in a community never gets to 10% of students at grade level for decades? This is the challenge.
We know why. We know why, but what are you proposing to do about it?
So we have two levels of things we're looking to do. One is here resolving that out of school education, continuing education, leveraging that 80% that's not in school, and that's going to be done through the avatar or the interactive AI approach to the kids. And whatever it is, if what you're suggesting here on science fiction and things like that, if that's the thing that creates the excitement that holds the attention of the kids, hey, that's great. So
what's the group? I mean, all I've got a picture is you chatting to AI on that and meeting someone at a conference. Who's the group of people working on that particular avatar thing?
Right. That's exactly all we've got so far is a small handful of people that have been discussing this and saying our next step is to put that group together that you're talking about. And one of the group that we're looking at is a combination of TV and newspaper, the education reporters to say, hey, we want your participation as a co-conspirator to raise. We have a project that we've defined to take random 10 of the worst schools in the state of New Jersey that have never achieved 10% of kids at grade level for more than 10 years and get them to 70% in 1 year. And given here that
we know the game goals, but all I'm saying is the missing part here is the competence to design an interesting out-of-school initiative that involves technology.
We got the solution for that particular case designed, and that is to use Khan Academy. Well, it's only one option, but in this case here, we pick Khan Academy. The idea is we have celebrities from football and basketball going into schools. Rah, 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 kids, you can do this. And getting the kids to take the responsibility themselves to achieve that. And there's a whole bunch of things. We create a competition to be one out of 270 schools in terrible condition in New Jersey, primary schools. 10 will be selected, and you have to compete to be one of those 10. And to become one of those 10, you've got to have all your school board, your superintendent, all the.
Okay, I don't need the idea, but because what we need here is a group of really good, talented designers and technical people who can take the aims and objectives and create it in a way that works for the outer school demographics and young people, and has that aspirational element. So what I want to see is, can we have a Zoom meeting where we have 5, 6 people who've got the talent and got the knowledge and are thinking that way together?
We can do that, but there's an example here. We're not taking this out of thin air. For example, there's a program in California where they took Khan Academy. It turns out they were at 6th grade. And every one of those kids had failed 5th grade, but they got put into 6th grade because of social promotion and whatever. But most of the kids were at a 2nd and 3rd grade level. And in 1 year, that school.
Look, we don't need a document of successful projects. What we need is a team of talented people.
Yeah, but
who
we're
are
just
the
going to
people?
copy
Can we
that
get
model.
them to turn
We're not
up?
going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to just.
It doesn't matter. I don't care about what the project is. I care about, can we get more than you in a Zoom where we actually get a talented group of people designing that program, working with, looking at that, right? Is there the design of the program?
Designing it, we don't need to
I don't mean designing.
I
don't mean designing. I mean, the problem is that it's just you and ChatGPT, right? So in order for it to be a successful project, you need to get those stakeholders together who understand intuitively, I don't know, how to use a mobile phone, gaming, the culture of this, that, and the other, what's working now, what's happening now, who understand media, who understand not the history of the last 40, 50 years of IT like me and you, but have been brought up in the age of AI and know how to code with it. And we need, if we can't get 5 or 6 people like that to turn up to a Zoom call, we're fucked.
Right now, we would not have targeted that audience at all because of the fact that we've got a solution that's there, that's usable literally tomorrow.
I don't trust the solution. It seems to me like you are looking at an ancient project called Khan Academy because you've looked about it on some social media thing.
I'm looking at the outcomes of the results of using it.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not saying Khan Academy is a great project, but I'm just saying that it doesn't feel that it's got the contemporary energy involved in it to be a good design.
I think here
it feels like the sort of project, and it might be the best solution, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, to design a project like this that works in the real world, involving young people and the aspirational stuff, you need to
I would agree for what you just said. I don't think that was necessarily our goal with this particular one. Our goal was to get the kids to knuckle down and use the existing methods of a book or whatever, and to just set their personal goal to master the material 100%. What they did in California is they sent every one of those kids back to kindergarten. And they said, you work through all the material from kindergarten through 6th grade, and you cannot move on from about 550 different learning units in that particular case. You cannot go from one learning unit to the next until you prove mastery of the previous one. And they worked their way up, and it worked. And
good program.
Nothing helps more than the proof of it working.
Yeah, well, no one cares about that, especially in America nowadays. What we have to sort of like do is take the energy of what people are gossiping about, care about, passionate about, get that attention, and then direct it towards successful programs like the ones you're talking about. But we want both those things. And what I'm saying is, what I think will really help with the practical delivery, the investability, the people endorsing it, is to ensure that that design contemporary energy is there in the stakeholders. When we have a group, when we do a pitch deck, when we present, that is there, right? And that needs a change in the way that it's been the last few years.
Yeah, I think, are you familiar with Carol Dweck?
No.
Oh, okay,
Sorry,
Stanford University. She's the author of The Growth Mindset.
Yes, I know that book. Yeah.
Okay. And so she's done some experiments here where if you can get the kids to be excited by the result more than by what they're doing, and get them to, I think what you're describing is what I would put as a stage 2. Once you've got the kids saying, my goal is to get to a 100% score my knowledge, demonstrating the mastery of this. My goal is to get to 100% on that. And I have these tools available today. And we encourage the market out there, make better tools, make better tools. And because the people now are hungry for the best tools, they'll pursue the best tools. Right now, the school system doesn't care about the quality of the tools. They just care that they go to work and get paid a day, and what comes out of that is, as long as it's not worse than what happened in previous years, they're not in trouble. Because otherwise, how could a principal exist in a school that fails year after year after year after year, and you got the same staff doing the same things that has failed every year? So we've got to create a situation where the students are pursuing their maximum that they can achieve. And now, once we have that,
and then my approach, yeah, but okay, but that's a lot of words. If I was to bring it down to a sort of grounding of try building on what you're saying there, is I would say what we have is a lot of work which indicates successful educational interventions, their nature, that if we could just scale them, we'd have a massive impact. Whether that be Sunita Gandhi's work or this Khan Academy, we've got that research, we've got the evidence, we've got the pilots, we know how much it will cost, we can operationalize it. What we don't have is what I'd call design thinking, good storytelling, good communication skills.
I would agree. I would agree.
Right? And therefore, what I think the things to really think about are like, there's basically what really motivates the particular kids of the age group that you have, right? And it's not the sort of things we're talking about right now. They're not motivational. It's a little bit, but not much. It's not really rock and roll for kids we're talking about. You also want to know what really motivates the teachers, the parents, what they care about if it's an out of school thing, right? Not so much we're sort of avoiding the teachers right now because that's for the funded projects with the state endorsement and all of that thing. So if you can do something that parents really care about, and they care about things like social media at the moment, in the West at least, social media and AI, right? And they're really worried and concerned about that. So if you can do a story in that which says it's preparing, it's addressing your fears, it's really going to engage it, and it's fun, your kids are going to love it, and we're going to protect your kids and we're going to take it forwards, and get that story right that motivates those, so the parents want to send their kids to it, the kids want to turn up to it, right? At the moment, that's completely missing from the story I've heard.
There's another piece that's missing too, and that is New York is a prime example. New York has a thing called magnet schools, where you can go and register your kid to go to a more aggressive or a more rigorous school. And there was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, there were a lot of protests out there for upper middle class families were protesting against the existence of these magnet schools because they said, hey, every kid should be treated the same. So they said, no, we're against these magnet schools. But when the day came to go and register your kids to go to the magnet schools, it was those parents that were protesting out there against the magnet schools that were registering their kids to go to the magnet schools. Why? Because they said, we don't like there being magnet schools, but if there are, we want to make sure our kids get the best opportunities. But the parents that were not there, the parents that that would benefit the most, the kids who were getting the really not getting the successful education, those parents were not there. They didn't register their kids. They don't get involved at all. We see the absentee rate among the lower socioeconomic kids is so high because the parents don't even get up to take their kids to school. We saw what the school my grandkids went to in Germany. This is not an American thing only. The school that they went to in Germany, primary school, there was a news reporter there because some kids came to school in their pajamas, barefoot
Yeah.
in the snow in the winter.
Again, we understand the problem. I've got some proposals of what to do about that, but what are you talking about that we can practically do this year about that?
Yeah, and what we're looking to do here, a lot of these families there, because the mother has to work or whatever, they dump their kids into low-cost daycare, which is basically just no, just keeping the kids safe. There's no academic, no educational aspect, just babysitting, if you would. And to be able to provide these daycares with these low cost nanny in a box, a tutorial nanny in a box type of thing, that will just read stories to the kids and observe what the kids are seeing. And
okay, can I say something? That to produce that nanny in a box, you'd be lucky if you can do it in 12 months. So we're talking about something that we can do next year if we fundraise successfully.
Well, no, the question
also,
is how many people, how far are the numerous efforts right now to build exactly that? How far along are they? So to be able to go and test to see how close different ones are. We don't care.
Okay, so that's a research project. Yeah, all right. You don't have the answer right now, but I just want to talk about practical things that we can do. We've got the ability to do the stakeholder thing, and the sort of thing I would be talking about for those groups, because I think we can do something at scale out of school if we get our messaging and our tactics right, and we work as a team. Right? If we do those things, we can, in the next 6 months, do that, and we can reach millions of people that way, right? The issue then is, okay, that's going to most easily meet the sorts of people that are the kind of got the middle class parents and what have you. So the question is, how can we make sure that you also address where it's really needed? I would say, just off the top of my head, as a suggestion, there are two things that I would suggest. One kind of dark one and one positive one. The positive one is to do with peer mentoring with young people. So if you make, as part of the condition of the entry, if a kind of middle class kid takes part, that they have to go on a quest and find someone who doesn't know about that and bring them along as well. Right? So they can approach them in school, they can approach them out of school, they can motivate them, acknowledging the fact that the parents are just not really going to be there for that particular kid, right? The second one is to realize, but I don't have the data on this or what have you, is that a huge amount of parenting, bad parenting in working class family is involved with sitting someone in front of the games console or an iPad. So if we do use a Roblox game or something like that, we're straight in the audience you're talking about, right? Yeah. So again, thinking about that and then getting the data as part of that, would be
the peer mentoring programs. They exist actually fairly widespread, but not in terms of the percentage of that population covered. It's very little because all the schools are segregated by socioeconomic class. So the schools that with low socioeconomic, there are no peers that are
I can tell you what we're doing structurally and tactically from the hitchhiker storytelling, right? Yeah. So we're using groups of 42 because it makes an interesting class, and we're using the citizen assembly kind of methodology or citizen jury type methodology, which means that you're required to get that diversity of participation, and we gamify that. So to go out and twin and make sure that you've got that, and you only will win or gain a prize if you use that, if you've got that diversity of demographics in your group project that you're doing. So building it in a fun, playful way.
Yeah, Interact clubs are a good opportunity, and that's the kind of project that they would appeal to. And we've got here something like about 10,000 to 12,000 Interact clubs and we've been talking to the leadership of some of the Interact groups there because they love exactly that kind of project, but they'll do it mostly in the school that they're in. Now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, here in the United States, because the states mandated, Interact is the high school level Rotary.
Right.
Most states have mandated that students have to complete a certain number of um, community social hours in order to be able to graduate high school. And what happened with most Interact clubs is that the Interact clubs became a place where the faculty advisor provided the list of here's the soup kitchens and the food banks and things like this that are looking for volunteer hours. And so the kids just sign up for that. And so they're no longer planning the real projects like that peer mentoring types of projects, or where they marry up.
Can I tell you a little story, Bill? Which is, I talked about the World Book Day,
Yeah.
and it happens. It was picked up from this fabulous tradition that happens in Barcelona, which is based on just a tiny digression because it's fun and the call's getting quite tiring. And I think it might inspire an idea here, right? It's basically based on, it's called Santa Jordi, and it's based on St. George and the Dragon, right? And what they have as a tradition is where the young men give flowers to the young women in the town, and the women give books back to the young men. And that is in Barcelona. It's in the spring, in May, they put all the books, and all the bookshops go out and put the books out on stalls outside. And it's a great kind of festival of literature and giving, right? So the idea that I've got for social media marketing working with these schools is what we can do is we can take that and we can do it globally, because it's also the UNDP recognized World Book Day. They picked up on that. And the idea there is that there is a gift of story and a gift of resources that goes backwards and forwards. So young people, when they do their reading, they can give a gift of story to either another class somewhere around the world or to some old people. And that idea of reading, doing it on TikTok, doing it anywhere, and giving that story to someone else in different languages and what have you, making it really fun, making it kind of like gamified there, already building on this UN World Day, and then working with the ideas and the groups that you have contact with. That's what I'm particularly interested in working with, and having different intergenerational aspect to that, because we've got the sci-fi and the older, the creativity. We want to have those aspirational older kids that the younger kids want to look up to. But it's interesting that reading, the idea of capturing that reading and being able to use that on we have to be careful how we do it, but on social media, sending it to another class, sending it to your grandparents. That gift of reading makes it a little bit more fun rather than just reading something because your school teacher told you to read a book.
Yeah, yeah. No, you might be very interested in, I don't know if you're familiar with Design for Change. That's that group out of Ahmedabad, India. One of the projects that is very often done by these middle school kids is they go out and they read to illiterate adults in their communities, and which both helps their reading skills, but also they try to encourage the older generations to learn to read. And I understand there's over 40,000 schools now worldwide that participate in the Design for Change, because it becomes a competition. You not only do the work, but the class has to then describe the project they did and publicize that, so that other schools can then have, in future years, can have examples that they might be interested in following.
So I want to basically apply for this £500,000 grant, do it so that we can use AI to augment this traditional practice that you're talking about reading, connecting the generation, but be able to do it remotely, so you can send it all the way across the planet, right, to someone else. And that way we can also get the relationship between the Indian schools that are very strong at the moment in this network and the American schools, where stories go from one to another and gift of resources to do practical projects can also go the other way. And I think with the £500,000, we can also give quite a good initiative around the financing of these schools, right? The school projects to match that, but we want to make it sustainable as well at that community level. So that's the project that I'm framing at the moment, and I could go into detail about it.
What you might want to do on that, and that's sort of a takeoff on our Close the Gap project, that I mentioned that we said, hey, we don't have to build anything new. We can just use Khan Academy. The challenge is just to get the kids excited to be using it, and that was by going and making them media stars, getting the media,
Yeah.
just reporting on the schools that are participating on a continual basis, having prizes that
Now
when
we can get the media stars
right. So
because of we own
right,
the IP in this famous sci-fi brand and the
correct.
movie
But
stuff.
the
And if you don't do, if it's not only do Khan Academy, but use
oh
the games that I'm talking
yeah.
about, that really motivates the kids
And
to
I
want to
think
take part.
here that for what you're saying here, one of the big weaknesses we see in Khan Academy is in for every learning unit, which is usually only 10 to 15 minutes a learning unit,
Yeah,
that they have a video. Khan Academy has a
yeah,
video that explains that. We
mm,
think here there should be as many different offerings on each one as we can get people to provide. So in other words, it just becomes
yeah,
this learning unit. Here's all the different providers that have the
yeah.
explanations for that, and they can be gamified. They can be everything, and people,
Okay,
students can
fine.
identify
But
their
whatever you
favorite.
think, it doesn't matter. What matters is can you build it and think it. So
No, I don't want to. I
with
don't. I want to get 100 people building it.
yeah, well, at least you need proper budgets and you need proper teams and you need to do it at a massive
No, no, we
scale,
just need the
right?
companies. Get Amazon to build stuff. Get Google to build stuff. Get these players to go out there
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
show them the
All right.
motivation to build it.
Yes, but to do that, you've got to show. Look, let's do that, right? Let's go and get those companies. But to do that, well, first of all, we need the right design, the right team, the right approach to that. We also then talk to smaller, medium-sized teams. Now, the £500,000 grant, that is with Roblox right now, deadline in May, right? It's got some controversial things to do with it, bad press at the moment, which make them even more interested in applying for that, right? But that way, doing it around the educational benefit going to these practical school projects based on reading, but using the interface there means that what you can do is you can award these kind of video prizes that the kids like a star in Roblox world, right? If they win a prize, right? And I know technically how to do it as well. Now, we don't have to get that money, but making that application quickly also lets us now talk to let's say Google Gemini AI and the other big companies and saying, actually, what we really need to do is enhance the Khan Academy offering as an open source project designed with the multi-perspectival thing you're talking about. Now, we have built in multi-perspectival with the guides that we're doing because Hitchhiker guides are all about guides, which are basically multi-perspectival Khan Academies, licensing and thing with AI built into them. Right? We're taking on the task of building that because we don't believe anyone else is competent to do it, right? Because their design sucks. They're not coming at it with enough creativity. But on the other hand, if someone does come along and can help us build, then that's great. But I think you should take the approach that we can build it, but if you can help us build it and build it better than us, please do. But you don't want to go into the thing, we're just talking, we don't really know what we're doing, please build it for us, you're the good guys to build it. That separation of concerns is causing the problem that we have at the moment with this project. Because the competency isn't at manager level.
Yeah, have you seen the video that I created of a project? I put together a multinational project of developers, and we developed we basically reverse engineered Khan Academy and created a tool to allow it to be very easily translated into any language very, very quickly by non-technical people. I don't know have you seen that video?
I don't think so, but yeah, do send it.
I'll send that
Definitely,
here
that's the sort of thing to do. Yeah.
Okay, because the reason is the real secret to Khan Academy, and it's not the way it's being used. I would say 90% of people are using Khan Academy incorrectly. They think the videos are the key. The real key is the way it broke down the learning units here into, for example, in math, these 450 learning units between kindergarten and the end of fourth grade, that you have to sequentially master each one because they build on the previous knowledge. And now to go and say, well, if you know how to do it, great. If you don't know how to do it, you can ask for hints and maybe you figure it out. But if that's not enough, then you can go into a tutorial. But right now, you've only got the Khan Academy tutorials. Oh, and then they got this thing, Conmigo now, which is an AI version that will Socratically walk you through so you invent the solution or you discover the solution and do it on your own. But the idea here is that when you get to the point that you don't know, you can't just think through what the next step would be, that you have to ask for help, that we should have almost like a library that you can go, and here's all the different ones lined up. These are for people who are visual. These are people who are more on the audio side, this and all the learning styles. And you find
again, Bill, I appreciate you because you have all this background and the IT experience you've got and what have you. You've got all these kind of designs in your head, if you like, right? And they sound pretty good. I like them all. I'm interested in doing it, so I want to know the details, why it hasn't been built already. So I'd rather hear like the experience you have of doing that technical call out, doing a Khan Academy clone. Why didn't it work? Why isn't it now got?
No, because what we built.
When was it? What's the detail?
A translation. It wasn't a Khan Academy clone. It was a translation. But on the video along the way, we explained how the internal logic of Khan Academy works, so that one can figure out how do you translate it easily.
All right. I just want to know how we can make that call, build on the success of that, and get some people who can actually code and design and good thinkers to turn up to a Zoom call.
Yeah,
right?
I'll say.
How did you do it?
I just managed to get some international young people that were developers to volunteer. So we had from Spain.
And how long ago was that? How long ago was that?
Oh, that's a while back. That's got to be 20 years. 20 years ago. They're all.
That's what I mean. Let's not talk about things that far back. I'm talking about at least. Let's not go back further than 2 years, right? We're talking about how we can do it now, what we can do now, who will definitely turn up, what we can learn from the mistakes before, and what has changed over the last 20 years, and therefore how we'd have to do it now. That's what we have. We have to get that team together.
Yeah. The surprising thing is in IT, very little has changed in the last 40 years.
Oh no, a hell of a lot has changed because of AI right now.
No,
and
through
what's
AI,
happened in the
through
market.
the vibe coding, but the
that makes a massive difference.
The underlying code that's going to end up how it works. That
doesn't matter. No, it has changed a lot. Actually, the standards that we have now, the technical sophistication of WASM now, the various media APIs that are now universally standard.
No.
Of the internet.
I agree with that.
They've all changed a lot.
I'm talking about how digitization.
Also, the coding environment of young developers is not like I know from 10 years ago. Their attitude, their approach, what they're looking for, it's completely changed.
No, I know. But the end, when you get down to the equivalent of assembler level code,
the problem, look, a year ago or a year and a half ago, we had a conversation. And I said, look, the problem is you're not building anything, and we could help with the social media aspect and what have you. The problem is that layer in the Rotary universe is too old. Mm-hmm. It's not got the learning of the latest practices in software development. It's not exciting to young coders or developers or designers.
That I agree 100%.
So let's not defend it. Let's not defend our failures.
That's not where I was getting. Do you know what VSAM is?
VSAM? No.
Okay, it was the core technology of putting magnetic media or the digital magnesia on some kind of a data carrier, magnetic disk or whatever, and the way that is managed and hasn't really changed. So that's where I was talking about. At the end of the day, how we do it has changed dramatically. But that's neither here nor there. I think the thing here is I'm going to send you that video we did. because the real key to the education side, once you know those fundamentals, is to be able to break down what has to be learned step by step by step, and be able to make sure that you have mastered each level before you go to the next level. That's
Look, I trust you on that, Bill. I also think that knowledge is fairly established
it is.
Cutting-edge educational projects, right?
Unfortunately, not in the schools, though.
Yeah, not in the schools. That's not our problem. Our problems are the style of communication that you personally do on Twitter, on media, on social messaging is broadcast, right? It's not building personal relationships. The teamwork that we do is it's largely you talking all the time. No one else gets a word in, right? In other words, to build the sort of participatory design practice that involves the understanding, the empathy of what parents and young people are about, and to build the design and partnerships with the young companies and the startups and things that we can do to build that first group of 6 people, 15 people. That's our main problem at the moment.
David,
right?
David, I invite you, be our partner, bringing those kinds of people together.
I'm there. I've always been there. But for that, you need to send a personal text message.
Yeah.
You need to invite those partnerships, because you're the figurehead here. And if you don't change something in yourself to reach out to establish those younger partners on the technology and the design, it's never going to happen, whatever anyone else does.
Yeah, right? I agree. I'm more on the goal setting side, not of the how, but of the what.
Yeah. And keeping that is great. And I think you can do that really well and really quickly. But it won't, I think a lot of us, especially when you talk about the speed and the hurry, we want to build those partnerships, apply and make it happen at speed. And for that means getting a group of 5 or 6 talented people from all the different backgrounds, doing the stakeholder. So the faster we can arrange that, the better.
Yeah. What I've been focused on here more is understanding why the different approaches have not worked. And I'll give you a good example. I mentioned the Abbott preschool solution the Supreme Court in New Jersey mandated. Oh, okay, the kids aren't coming to school prepared from lower socioeconomic categories. Okay, you got to mandate, we're mandating preschool. But then they found here that they did that. The kids could read, they could do numeracy, they get to 4th grade and they go over a cliff. And then why? So then we look and we find it's because of ages 1 through 3. If you miss the ages of 1 through 3, you're just screwed for life. Basically, you cannot, 90% of those kids cannot recover anytime in the rest of their lives. And all the monies we put in to try to reverse that are all failing, because we don't realize that they missed the whole compounding. It's like saving for your retirement. If you don't start saving until you're 60 years old and you don't have any compounding.
If we compartmentalize all that educational, pedagogical thinking, learning, research, and we say, Bill and his group has done a lot of research in that space, got a lot of experience, as have many other players, right? And there isn't, unfortunately, a very good research archive there, but we should do better on that. We'll build that thing, we'll strengthen that thing, right? That great, good, right? Best educational practice. We know what needs to be done. The other aspect, the things that we can move faster on, and I think is particularly suitable to Rotary Club organization, is doing something that scales, uses out of school, uses technology and social media, has great story, and really get lots of people putting the pressure on the institutions, signing up, doing things, right? That's what we're weak on. That's what our communication style is weak on. That's what our partnerships are weak on. That's what we can get most leverage. That's where we can move quicker if we address those problems fast, right? So it's getting that messaging better. It's getting that partnership better. It's getting our technology better.
We've concluded the same thing. The politics out there is a hindrance to success. We can conclude that the very concept of teaching is detrimental to the concept of learning. And
it's all up for grabs now, and we don't need to talk about that anymore. What we need to focus on is addressing our personal failures in communication, Our personal failures in the technology we use, our personal failures in attracting the right partnerships.
Yeah.
When we do that, we'll be able to move faster.
And to that communications aspect here, you're 100% right. The question, the thing that is very important for us to remember is, what is it we're trying to communicate? We're trying to communicate.
No, we know that.
We don't know that.
Been done.
We don't know that. That's the biggest problem. There's an organization that's spending.
Stop. That's what you just keep repeating with your broadcast technique for the last 5 years, nonstop. Bang, 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 bang. And I'm saying that's got us so far, that communication technique, right? What we need to do is keep the message, but maybe get some professional media people involved to shorten it, to add it to research. But that means you changing the communication strategy.
No, 100%. That's I'm agreeing exactly with what you're saying. That
so
what
we're
we
not
have
communicating
failed to do, we failed to communicate the message. It doesn't change the message. The message is still right.
It doesn't change the message. Yeah, the message is right.
And there's a group
Our
in New
problem
Jersey
is how we're working. The problem is how we're working.
There's a group in New Jersey spending $1 million a month to try to get, it's called Wake Up New Jersey, because of the fact that the school grades that are given in New Jersey are so inflated to not let any child feel bad, that it just is getting parents to believe their kids are getting an education. But then when it comes to the national exams and the whole school goes down the tubes, but people aren't paying attention. Nobody's talking about that. So the idea is the communication to get the message out, to get the message to the right people. That's the issue, and I'm not succeeding as I need to in doing that. But if that message doesn't get out, if the message doesn't get out of what you need to do, then you're doing the work. I say Rotary's got this thing where people of action. That's their motto, people of action. And I say in Rotary, the problem is you got way too much action and not enough brains. And as a result, you're doing millions of projects. Every 5 years, Rotary's doing 1 million projects. And the result that they're getting out of that is zippo. They're helping some individuals, but they're not changing the situation as far as the resolution of any of the major problems. And so we've got to do a better job of getting people to realize, hey, this is what would make a significant difference. And so that they're aiming at least at the right thing. And then we can start talking about how do we get there.
All right. So, I mean, to me, you just put those two things together. You take the motto of people of action, right? And you make sure that we, in what we do, right, our communication, our use of technology, our partnership strategy, right, keeping the same aims and objectives, not changing them at all, in the same message, but we provide the interfaces so people with action can contribute.
Yeah.
Right?
Right now, what we're trying to do
rather than just listen to a stream of monologue.
Yeah. What we're trying to do right now is create a Rotary Action Group to be like the central offices of a McDonald's, to go and develop solutions that would be implemented by the Rotary clubs on the ground, and with the idea that that central function exists.
Take that example just as a suggestion, right? What that, to me, would be a two-stage thing. You've got a systematic organizational infrastructural redesign of Rotary Club methodologies, right? Then you need to implement that in software so that a younger generation can get involved in acting it. You want to fund the development of that software so that that organizational infrastructure runs in a 21st century way.
It does. If you're looking here at how do we do something about open defecation, it might be going and bringing in 20 experts that for different soil types, different numbers of people, put together different solutions, and then a group organizes the supply chain.
And for that we need organizational infrastructure in a digital form.
It doesn't have to be digital.
Yeah, it does, because otherwise, it does. It does, because the whole future of every single institution is digital, especially in the age of AI.
Yeah.
Two, if you want to attract young people and action, you need to help. You can say, help us build that. right? So you give them a practical in rather than saying, hey, we're going to have another committee that's going to meet and it's going to be full of old people and we'll talk about it and then maybe we'll get some money. You say, no, we're building that now. Here's the design, here's the schema, help us build it, right? Use AI to build it. You've got an immediate strategy. And if you can't code or do AI or do design, well, you can help fundraise to the building of it, because we want to massively scale the administrative bureaucracy and make it painless and background, the Rotary Club action thing, and make it in everyone's hand who's got a mobile phone, right? And so you want to take it, you want to produce the interface between people of action and the academic bureaucratic inspirations that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're looking a little bit more again, that we would probably organize the competition or whatnot, or the groups to come up with the ideas of how to design the projects, or how to handle the publicity, or all of those types of things, and then a group that would organize the setting up the purchasing paths and all of this, and then the local Rotary clubs, they then might be able to get grants, but they would do the funding. In other words, we're generally speaking, in Rotary, we don't do stuff with money above the club level.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know what to say about that. That's fun and admirable and weird all at the same time. So, basically, does that mean that we can't? It's okay. We'll get someone else to apply for the £500,000 plus the Google sponsorship to scale this project, right? Because that you can't square this sort of thing. But you have to get the resources and the scaling and the top down that you've been talking about all the time. And if you're hampered because of the institution you're in, you just never be able to do that. Rotary can remain a grassroots little thing. No,
that's the problem with the people that used to run Rotary in the U.S. These are the people that, because money is no issue, they did not have to worry about the fundraising or whatever. They just did what they did at the community level, but that was where the power was at that time. And the expertise, the whole idea was in Rotary, each member brings their expertise to Rotary. And so does that mean here, if there's a big project like the project with polio, or the project with malaria in Africa currently, that's at a multi-country level, that there's millions going into those projects, but they basically, a lot of it's funded or done through the grant process. So Rotary's got $1 billion in its foundation. So it's a question of how they're using it. Right now, I think they're using it very ineffectively. Even to support the development of things you're talking about would be a much better use of the foundation funds, because it has a multiplication effect. Whereas most of the things.
So what does that mean in terms of Rotary being on a funding application with external partners?
With external partners, the way it works here is, if you go in and say, okay, we want to do a project. This project's going to cost X amount of money. So you either raise it locally within your local club, or you get a bunch of clubs together and you say, we'll do this jointly. And then you can apply for grants from the district or from Rotary itself. And there's a multiplication effect that applies to that. So you can have, you can get, I don't know how much now I'm seeing. I think there was some projects that were, and definitely in the hundreds of thousands of dollars here in recent years.
Yeah, that will just about play for a mobile app. If we're talking about achieving the scale, you're talking about educational impact globally, you're talking about hundreds of millions being raised, right? So how do you partner up?
No, I'm not. Actually, believe it or not, some of the things we looked at here, we see the local Rotary Club, we find solutions that are very low cost to begin with, And then because
Of course.
we
You have
encourage
to do
third
that.
parties to do the development, and then we just arrange to be able to obtain the results, and we encourage the local clubs.
Why are you, look, what's going on here? If you want to achieve this global impact, you need the project, if you look at it as a whole, needs to put in hundreds of millions, if not billions, into global educational initiatives to address this problem, right? And that's just fact.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
Well,
I disagree.
Let's say Sunita Gandhi's projects. Sunita, in one country, India, right? She requires $250 per school. She's got a wait list of another, I think, 40, 50,000. She needs several million just to do a very small 6-week initiative in schools in one country. Right. So if you multiply that by countries above, I want to raise money so
why does she need that money? Why does she need that money?
Because it costs 250.
What's it cost to provide the materials?
250.
Why? Why? For what? For the printing?
Printed material plus travel costs plus it's nothing. $250 to do a school program.
I know it's no money, but it's more than should be necessary because you don't need to do that travel. You don't need to. There's things that are built in.
Look. Okay, I don't. I mean, are you just against being effective?
No. The thing about it is,
what's wrong with doing? What's wrong with doing small £250 projects at scale around the world? What's wrong with getting companies to put money in?
I think here, but in that case there, what I would do, and we are talking about doing it in several states here in the US right now with that program of encouraging local Rotary clubs to sponsor the local schools.
Yes, that's where the money comes from.
Okay,
that's where you get your billion.
Right, but that's the way we get the money for that is by going and getting the schools, the local Rotary club.
So you need to get Rotary clubs to raise $1 billion, let's say, to do this project, right?
No, you get each Rotary club to raise maybe $500 for two schools.
Yeah, but globally that needs to add up to $1 billion, or you're not achieving your targets.
What it adds up to is fine. It's like with McDonald's when they put together an ad campaign and then the local Rotary Club goes in and McDonald's says, I want ad number 4, and then they pay a small
all I'm
amount.
talking about is I want to be effective. There is money we can apply for. It needs to be sustainable. We need to get that money back. But I don't want to say no to appropriate ethical sources of funding just because you're weirdly structured and you've got some reason why you don't want to be effective, right? I think when you combine it with what you're talking about, it raise the impact if we can be a bit more professional about how we're going about stuff here.
I think that the difference here is the foundation, the Rotary Foundation, will take projects that originate with the individual Rotary clubs. But that central piece that you're talking about right now, there is no concept to be able to fund the central piece that you're talking about. That's something I do agree here. There should be a mechanism in place that if you can come up with something that's going to be of big benefit.
The basic mechanism we need to deliver anything at scale is a partnership model. So Rotary, it can't be just done by Rotary Club. It needs to be done with a partnership. So
Correct.
what is the experience of a model that the Rotary Club has previously engaged in with various international partnerships, making with a real kind of set of contracts and a financial relationship there, so that that thing can deliver at scale and can spend money effectively and efficiently and be audited and transparently well. What is that partnership structure?
You've got the partnership between Rotary and the International Health Organization, the Gates Foundation, and a number of others on polio, for example, where
and
hundreds
how
of
about
millions
delivery
a year,
partners?
hundreds of millions a year. Pardon?
And there must be also delivery partners involved who inject people or supply the polio vaccine.
That's the local Rotary Club volunteers that do all that. There's no provision for that being outsourced, but a local Rotary Club could. They could go and do that, but Rotary itself doesn't. Rotary has another one with the shelter box, for example.
So, for instance, if we're talking about what we were talking about, which is getting the Khan Academy involved, let's say Google AI involved or someone like that, right? Let's say there's a particular I don't know, design agency involved, right? Right? And then there's the Rotary clubs. How would you structure that partnership so we can all apply for money together?
Right now, that one, I don't think there's a model in Rotary right now that would support or match that type of a level.
What I'm wondering is, because you mentioned the problems in Rotary with that sort of like global level and the local level, whether that sidestep into a partnership space out the side there could raise the ambition at the global level of Rotary and bypass some of the current blocks that you're facing.
I'm gonna have to do some check out what's the nature of the relationship. There's a relationship to the Gift of Life program that does the heart surgery for kids around the world. And they have a special relationship with Rotary, and the shelter box that provides where catastrophes are, that provide these tents and things like that, and see if there's anything beyond Rotary saying there we have a strategic partnership, which means we simplify things for local Rotary clubs to support a shelter box project, for example, or to fundraise for the Gift of Life program.
Yeah, and what I see is that that local Rotary clubs thing, facilitating, for instance, the partnership between much needed reading initiative topic, and then the centralized or the big, let's say, particularly if we were to able to partner to put in this £500 million grant with Roblox, right? We would get the technical partner there and the press to get the energy and the participation coming in, and that energizes the Rotary clubs to fundraise sustainably on an ongoing basis for supporting these educational initiatives by twinning maybe two schools together or something like that, right? That do that. So, yeah. But what we need to do is to, because Rotary Club is, to me, it's a bit like a community festival. It looks all messy and old-fashioned and grungy, right? So it's quite difficult to get the press, the marketing, and to get the kind of respect it deserves at that kind of international kind of it's a cool new thing level, right? If we do that partnership with the right partners, we can get that kind of global messaging, branding, young people energy thing, but without touching the actual mechanism of delivery, which is sustainable partnerships between Rotary clubs and educational pilots. But we need to put that we can't do it just inside Rotary, in my opinion. At least I would feel a bit weird about that.
I think here where Rotary needs that central organization, they're doing a little bit. We've created this thing called areas of focus. We have, I think, 7 areas of focus right now. It's almost like the SDGs, but a subset of the SDGs. And they are starting to take a role where they might look at water and sanitation and say, okay, we're going to try to do some coordination, which for the most part right now is just to say, hey, if your local club wants to do something in water sanitation, we will help you. We'll help you get a grant. We'll help you find out where you can find solutions. So they're moving a little bit in that direction. I would like to see them move more strongly in that direction to where they have a function that says, we will take care of getting the global communication and mobilization that we get movement going in an area, so your local club can just stand up and say, hey, we're the local representative for this massive worldwide initiative.
Yeah, and so the institutional question is just how to get permission to do that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is so tough. In 2018, I think it was, we had begun an initiative. It wasn't our idea. It was a bunch of these Interact students that called for a global youth structure to implement this readathon concept. And they called themselves Rotary Youth for a better world because they were mostly interactors and rotaractors, which is the college level.
Yeah.
And Rotary's answer was they sent out a note, cease and desist. Cease and desist here until it goes through all kinds of approvals. You're not allowed to say you're part of Rotary. And even though all these kids are saying, "What do you mean? We're in Rotary. We're Rotary youth."
I know. So I've got the story, and it's lovely to know that it's a classical institutional problem. So to bypass that, my understanding is there's this guy that we both know called Bill Graham, right? He needs to sneakily get past some permission to set up some partnership project, which has a name, which has the mandate of the top level of people to go and pursue those partnerships. And now you can bring people on and move fast in that. So that's the way that they've been approached first. They've given the permission early, and now you can bring the bottom up Rotary.
And that's what we're working. And I've talked to John Hugo, the CEO. I've talked to Tom Gump. I've talked to one of the other guys who was a director until recently. And I think here we're starting to see movement. I've talked to the last 5 presidents of Rotary, and they pretty much all are in agreement. But getting the board of directors, the challenge on the board of directors is the directors from the developing countries are in this problem where the local communities are no longer where the power is, and the power people have moved out of Rotary, versus the developing countries where a lot of the power is still in the communities. And so you've got this. And right now, the balance is shifting so that the board is more out of developing countries, South Asia, Africa, is the growth area. We lost an entire director seat in North America here a couple of years ago because of declining membership. But the recognition here is that we need both sides. So my hope is that I can convince the board that we need to be able to get the power brokers of the world, the people of influence, the major corporate players, the kind of people that we had in the 1940s and earlier. We need to get those people back, as well as the people who are on the ground, both in developing and in developed countries. And we need to go and have a group within Rotary who says our goal is to maximize the success of the local Rotary clubs by creating the infrastructure